Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? This is Coach Renz. Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. Um, I'll be your host today. Today we are going to have a discussion about free will. Is free will? Is there such a thing as free will in the Bible? And this is one of those things that helped a lot of us deconstruct from the Bible is the fact that there's actually zero free will in the Bible. And today I welcome all challengers to the logical conversation, adult conversation of whether or not free will exists or it does not exist. We're going to talk about a little bit of the theology behind both thought processes. Let me get my links together here. But we're going to, there's absolutely no way that anyone can logically read the Bible and come away from it believing that free will actually exists. We're talking about a system of beliefs that says that if a person were to not choose this God, then you go to hell. That is an ultimatum. That is what we call it. In every version of the English language, when you tell someone you either have choice A or choice B, and choice B being destruction and torment for all eternity, then truly there is no choice B. So, of course, the Bible tries to render that you do have free will, that you send yourself to hell, you send yourself to heaven. That is what most Bible thumpers are going to tell you. But when we actually look at some of the stories in the Bible and when we look at what the Bible actually says, then we come to realize that there is no such thing as free will. Even when we start with the Adam and Eve story, which is the one that people most notoriously love to start with, to say that there is such a thing as free will, because Adam and Eve, they had the choice of whether or not to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they disobeyed God. And because of that, sin entered the world. That is their claim to fame, that they had choice in the matter. But when you actually look at the Adam and Eve story and you think about it beyond the I'm just going to believe it, and you contemplate the fact that Adam and Eve would have had the consciousness of a child who has not been taught anything by their parents. Imagine a child, and the child doesn't know the difference between good and bad. What stage of development would you put that child in if the child doesn't know the difference between good and bad? And let's remember, disobeying this God's words, they would not have known if disobeying this God's word is something good or is it something bad. How would they know? How would they know what disobedience is? How would they have known what death is? So when this God said that, hey, if you eat from this tree of knowledge of good and evil, and the day that you eat of it, you will surely die. How would they know what death is? How would you be able to describe death? I remember when my children were like 3 years old, they're able to walk. And I told them, don't go out in the street. You might get hit by a car and die. My children had even at living on earth, things living and dying all the time at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. Well, probably by 5, I'm going to say that. But 2, 3 years old, they had no idea what death was. They couldn't conceptualize what death would mean to them. Even once they understood that, birds die, animals die, the logic of death to themselves was still kind of, I mean, if you think about your own childhood, I can remember back to when I was 5, right? At 5 years old, I had no idea what death was. Like, it wasn't a full concept. I didn't grasp it, So uh, we lived in these projects at the time frame, and we would walk through the projects, and you get to the bottom of the hill, and you'd cross the street to the school. There was a crossing guard, yes, but I didn't conceptualize that if without a crossing guard, if a car hit me, that I would no longer see my brother, I would no longer see my sister, I would no longer see my mom, no longer see my dad, no longer see anybody. Like that concept was still foreign to me going to pre-K. Even going to kindergarten, that concept was still like not fully grasped of death. That's the mindset of Adam and Eve. They didn't have a full concept of death. So the stick of death and disobedience and sin, well, there is no stick. And this is why I did some of the things that I did when I was a kid. Some of the most dangerous things that you were doing when you was young, you did them because there was really no stick. You didn't really fully understand the stick. When I used to climb down onto the highway signs over I-75, I didn't fully, grasp death. When I used to do that. Now, when I was older, I was, preteen, and I was doing that, I knew that I was doing something stupid. But now that's when I had choice. Am I going to do this stupid thing, or am I not going to do this stupid thing? Because now I fully understood when I was like 13, 12, 13, 14. I understood then. But when I was 6 and 7, crawling down on the highway signs and sitting there watching the traffic go by, I didn't fully understand the idiocy that I was performing. So how would Adam and Eve know? They wouldn't. They were set up for failure. So without them having that concept, right, saying that they had free will to obey God or not obey God, when you don't even understand the consequences of those actions, is entrapment and is not an indicator of free will. They're easily persuaded, which is why this so-called serpent in the garden, this talking snake in the garden, was able to persuade them, because it didn't take much. Surely you will not die. Well, of course, they didn't have a concept of what death is. So why would they think it's something they shouldn't do? You will become like us, knowing the difference between good and evil. And notice the serpent said, come like us, like the gods, like other sentient beings. Why is it that the human is the only non-sentient being, but you got a snake? This snake is sentient. This snake knows the difference between I just thought about how stupid that is. The snake, and this is why they try to say the snake was the devil or incorporate or the devil and took over his body or whatnot. How the hell does the serpent know the difference between good and evil? But it said that he was more beguiling than all the other beasts. So did the other animals talk? Were all animals sentient to the level of knowing the difference between good and evil at that time frame? But here's Adam and Eve's, they walking around smooth brain. So they didn't. So I wouldn't really count them as having free will, since they didn't even understand the concepts of what they were being told. And the fact that you're going to die, the threat. So free will, so this is the question that's being asked here. And before I give you my definition of free will, there's Let's not do that. Let's just look at it. Free will, the power of acting without a constraint of necessity or fate, the ability to act at one's own discretion, given readily, voluntarily, when you're offering free will offering. So free will is without the constraint or necessity of or fate, the ability to act on one's own discretion. And that pretty much is my definition of free will as well. The fact that I have the free will to do something that hasn't been determined what the fate of what I'm going to do, the fate of my decision, right? I can go and do what I want to do. I have the free will to jump off a building if I choose to. I have the free will to not jump off a building if I choose to. There are consequences in that one, and you may say, well, God gave consequences if you choose this or if you choose that. But see, that's me jumping off a building, there's no God giving the consequence. When some other being can interrupt your free will, can give you a consequence, you don't have free will in that instance. So if a God says that you either love me and then you go to heaven, or if you don't love me, you go to hell, I don't have free will. You're giving me a shit, I used the word earlier and I can't even think of the goddamn word. You're giving me an ultimatum. You're not giving me free will. That's an ultimatum. Right? Like I got all confident with this one girl I was dating. And I told her, either you break up with that other dude or we gonna stop being, we ain't gonna be friends, we ain't talking, we ain't doing nothing. So I gave her an ultimatum. It's either him or it's me. And I got cussed out. And that was the first time in my life that I heard the word ultimatum used with such vigor. Because I was told, how dare you give me an ultimatum? Because an ultimatum is when you say you choose this or you choose that. I was basically being like this guy, choose me or you choose isolation from me. That's an ultimatum. It's not free will. That's not free will. Not even slightly. Free will is when I ask my wife to marry me. She can say yes. She can say no. She can say either one. She has the choice. Are there repercussions? No. She go on and she lives her life, right? It is not you either marry me or three guys gonna come and beat you up and beat you to death. So there is no such thing as free will. There is no free will. Now, aside from free will, what we're also talking about, because the Bible really doesn't give you free will. Predestination is all up in the Bible. This is why the Calvinists broke off from the Lutherans and the Catholics, is because of two main verses in the Bible, Romans 8 and Ephesians 1, where, according to the Bible, you don't have free will in the first place. Everything has been predetermined. See, Fred's theology, federal theology, said that you can't freely believe that the sky is pink. Yes, you can. Here's the thing about that, Fred. You saying that you can't freely believe that the sky is pink. Yes, I can. I can freely believe that the sky is pink. I can look at the sky right now, and in my mind, I can say, no, that's pink. I'm calling that pink. Right or wrong, I have the free will to say that it is pink. People may not agree with me. You can utilize facts to prove me different, but what is pink? See, then you have to ask the question, what is pink? Pink is just the name that we have attached to a certain color. What if I call that pink and everything that looks that same color, I call it pink? And if I convince enough people that that is the color, that is what we're going to name that color, then it would be pink. You see what I'm saying? You think that these languages, these things like that are hard coded, but they're not. But I do have the free will to choose that. And we've demonstrated, see, in language, you can't use language. This is why the reason why that's a bad example, and you're actually more along proving my point, is because language comes about by people coming to a subjective agreement of what something is. See, that's it. It's a subjective agreement of what something is. If long time ago, when people start giving language to identify a color, if they would have said that's pink, you would agree with it. It's kind of like, and this gets on my nerves, people say agreeance. We're in agreeance. Agreeance 5 years ago was not a word. 5-10 years ago, agreeance was not a word. But it has become so common that now people say agreeance, and I believe it's in your dictionary. Ginormous was not a word. And my children used to irk me by saying ginormous. And I was like, that's not a word. That's not a word. And now that shit's in the dictionary because people have used it so much that it becomes a part of the language. Language is alive. So to say that the sky is pink, if enough people start saying that we're going to reassign that color and name it pink, then it's pink. It's subjective. But I can think it. I have the free will to think it, whether people agree. And that's the thing. I can think it. Whether people agree with me or not doesn't matter. I still have the free will, and there's no punishment. There's no constraints to it. And that's what free will is, without constraint. But as soon as you tell me that if you say that the sky is pink, you're going to die, you got to be tortured for the rest of your life, then that's not free will. And you're absolutely right. Matea, I hope I'm saying that right. He said it doesn't make it true because enough people do it. Exactly. Apply that to the Bible. Just because less than a third of the population agrees to most of it, but there are a bunch of disagreements within it, doesn't make it true. A bunch of people believe that Jesus rose, but it doesn't make it true. A bunch of people think that Adam and Eve actually existed, but it doesn't make it true. You see how that works? I don't believe in the Bible. Right. But the point is still there. Oh, you want to talk? Great. Cool. I like talking to people. Matea, is it Matea? Okay. I want to make sure I'm saying your name correctly. And you're over 21? Okay. So do you think that free will exists?
I do. Okay. What you're talking about is being able to perform actions without a reaction, which is not, doesn't require God. It's just not, it's a natural thing. If you do something, then something else is going to happen.
Okay, wait. So let me be specific. Do you think free will exists in the Bible? Or do you believe in the Bible?
No, probably not. I mean, if that's your pun intended, if that's your ultimatum.
Well, I mean, that's the conversation. The conversation is free will doesn't exist in the Bible.
Right. Well, I'll tell you why I don't believe free will exists in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Because if a God knows they're going to do something and creates a place of eternal punishment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to send you there if you do or don't do X, Y, and Z. Then, and he knows like what it's going to happen, right? He's all knowing. He's omniscient and all that jazz. Then he's the one that sent you there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then he actually doubled down on that, because in Ephesians 1:4 and 5, it says that even therefore, I'm reading the NLT version that this guy Isaac posted. Even therefore, he made the world. God loved us and chose us in Christ to be holy and without fault in his eyes. God decided in advance to adopt us into his own family and bring us into himself through Jesus Christ. So, according to Ephesians, in advance, this guy had already chosen who's going to be his people and who's not going to be his people. And then in Romans chapter 8, verse 29 and 30, it says that for those who he foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his son, in order that he might be the firstborn within a large family. And those whom he predestined, he also called, and those whom he called, he also justified, and those whom he justified, he also glorified. So 2 times Paul is writing that everything was predetermined. Who was going to be with God and who is not going to be with God has been predetermined. And if that's the case, then no one has free will. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I take it outside of the Bible that I do agree with. I think that free will and predetermination, I wouldn't use predestination on that, but predetermination and free will exist simultaneously.
Well, you're saying outside the Bible, though.
There's multiple outcomes for the choices we make, but there's only one outcome that you're going to get anyway. So does that mean it's a God predetermining it? No, it just means you have the ability to make choices, but each of those choices lead to an inevitable outcome.
Well, I don't think so I do think free will exists outside of the Bible. I don't think that predestination exists outside of the Bible at all, because if you and I both jump off a building, a 4-story building, are we both going to sustain the same injuries? Are we both going to die? Or are we both going to live? Right? There are 1,000 variables that will determine what your outcome is and what my outcome is, even though we both did the exact same thing.
Right. But what I'm saying is that doesn't mean that both outcomes aren't predetermined.
But they can't be predetermined.
Just because you end up like hitting a flagpole on the way down and like do a somersault and get sliced in half by a stop sign, and I fall into a car, I'm not saying like, maybe I survive and it's only so high up and because you flipped off the flagpole and sliced in half by, you are alive, but I don't. It doesn't mean that both things weren't going to happen the way they did because we made the choice. And then, yes, there's different factors that play into that, but it doesn't mean that. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that there's a God that decides that.
Right.
I'm just simply saying that I agree that there's different factors, but I still hold to the, my opinion, knowledge, not belief that it's still predetermined what's going to happen.
Well,
it doesn't mean that you have control over that, because the only thing you controlled was yourself jumping off the building. That's it.
But
you didn't control the flagpole that you didn't pay attention to that ended up making you do a backflip.
But Matea, I understand what you're saying, but here's the flaw in it. until we jump, when does those factors come into play? Do they?
As soon as you jump.
So then therefore they're not predetermined. Predetermined would mean that we decide today that we're going to jump, but we're not going to jump till tomorrow. There's nothing predetermined until we actually jump, and then the variables come into play. Because the time of day that we jump, the wind, all kinds of issues, those things don't happen. All those variables don't happen until we do commit the act. So they can't be predetermined. We have to wait for the moment. And then those are just the conclusions. Those are just the, what happens, but they're not predetermined. Because the pole could be there right now. But if we're going to jump in a month, the pole may be gone. So there's no predetermination because the pole may or may not be there at that time frame. So nothing is predetermined. It's only something that's happening at that moment, the cause and effects at that moment.
Right, but it doesn't really disprove what I'm saying, because it actually proves that the only time it exists is now, is the present moment.
That part I agree.
Which means all possibilities.
I'm agreeing with you.
Doesn't mean that those possibilities or which one becomes the outcome based on your choice.
Right.
Wasn't going to happen anyways.
No.
Because once you make the decision, then those factors are determined. That's all I'm saying.
No, I think we're relatively on one accord on that one. There's no disagreement. It's just choice of words. It's we're going to find out when we do it. The now is the only time that matters, and those variables will be occurring at that moment. But we're saying the same thing. So, but I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna let a couple other people get up.
Follow and all
right.
Come back sometime.
Appreciate you, Mateo.
For work anyway, so yeah, you too, man.
All right. Yeah, I think we were pretty much saying the same thing. Trevor popped up first, so let's get Trevor.
Yo, hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Trevor.
Wow, that was easy. Hey,
Trevor
thank you. Sorry?
Are you over 18? I mean, over 21?
Yeah, I am.
Are you a believer in the Bible?
Yeah, I am. It's kind of a new thing though, so it's complicated for me.
It's a new thing? Or you're newly believing
new
in the
thing
Bible?
for me, yeah.
Okay. So you are just now believing in the Bible. What did you believe before?
I was an atheist.
Okay. So you believe that free will exists in the Bible?
I'm still not sure about what free will means. Like, I just heard your last conversation, and like this idea about jumping off a building.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it kind of strikes me that, you were saying that like the factors that come to play out the outcome, they only come to exist once you jump off the building or make a jump. But I kind of don't feel like that's true. I feel like your whole life is leading up to this moment. Why are we jumping off this building? How are we jumping? Am I jumping like timidly, like I don't really want to jump?
So you're saying that your whole life leads up to it. That would be predestination. So when I dove out of a 4-story building with another Marine, we landed thankfully in some grass, but we were definitely injured. And you're saying that would have been predetermined. Like my whole life was leading up to it. So that means that my decision to go into the Marine Corps wasn't my decision. The time frame that I went to the Marine Corps wasn't my decision. The fact that I was in Desert Storm, that wasn't my decision. The whole war was predetermined. And so I was in that building at that moment, fighting that dude, and then thought that a grenade had dropped and we went out the window. All of that is predetermined.
Wow. I don't know, but I guess I'm just trying to stand on the idea that there's space enough there for something to guide you. And like even if you are sorry to interrupt you, but even if you are in a way like locked into the decision, like in a way, I assume I didn't know your background, but I assume that if you're joining the military, like, can I ask you, was there in that same way like an ultimatum that was pushing you into doing that?
Yeah, in it sort of. I was 19. My girlfriend wanted to get married. I knew that the only way I could pay for I could afford a wife at the time frame was to forego college and go to the Marine Corps. So I kind of like didn't have much of a choice. Now I could have chosen not to go, but that was my push to go into the Marine Corps when I did.
Yeah.
My goal was to go into the Marine Corps after college, which then I would have missed all the shit that happened when I would have missed Desert Storm. So that's the only reason I went to the Marine Corps. That's the only only reason I went when I did go. I was planning to go anyway, but that was the only reason I went at that time frame. Then I was working for a absolute racist, and even though doing that, going and clearing buildings in Kuwait City was not part of my job, he volunteered me to go do it.
Yeah.
Because he's an asshole. So it's really just cause and effect.
Yeah.
And one cause and effect leads to the next cause and effect, to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. But that's not predetermination because you can always change the causation.
Yeah. I mean, so we're at a disconnect, yeah? Like, you think I'm wrong about what I'm saying.
Are you a Calvinist?
I don't know. You're saying like, yeah, do I believe in like some kind of predetermination and like
Yeah. Like what church? What kind of church do you go to?
It's kind of non-denominational as far as I think, but I think it's
Okay.
it's connected to a Methodist group. So
Okay.
So
you think
Calvinism, like it's like I kind of believe that there's this predetermination thing, but I don't know if it's like Calvinism that you can like just count whether or not you're in the group ahead of time. I don't know. Maybe it helps to believe you are though.
I mean, there are different variations of predetermination in other religious groups, just like the Jehovah's Witness thinks that there's 144,000 that are going to be sealed, and that's been predetermined by this God. But then other denominations do believe that God has already decided and already knows everything. He already knows every decision you're going to make, so therefore everything is predetermined. So that's a popular teaching as well. But if God already knows everything every decision you're going to make, then yeah, it's predetermined. That means you have no control. That means that he purposely made me to go to hell. Does that sound like a good God?
No, that doesn't sound like a good God.
But
to make you to go to hell.
But isn't that what is happening with anyone who lives and die and do not believe in him? They go to hell, right?
I mean, that's a hard question. Yeah, I don't know, what is hell though. Like I guess I have this kind of
hell
weird
is being thrown into a fire, a lake of fire, and to be burning for all eternity.
Yeah.
So do you think a good God would make people who he knows is going to burn in hell for all eternity? That would be a good God?
No, I don't think a good God would make anyone burn in hell for all eternity. No. But I guess my perspective on hell is that it's like, and maybe I'm just throwing in apocrypha here, but I guess I got the sense somewhere that hell is more like, like I've had some Muslim friends that were telling me that hell for them is like you die and then kind of everybody goes through a period of like kind of hell. That was what this friend of mine was telling me, and that like the degree to which she sins from goes against the ways.
Trevor, that's Islam. That's Islam. We're talking about Christianity.
That's true.
In Christianity, there is no 50 years of torment and then you get to go to heaven. This is, you get thrown into the lake of fire and you are being tormented, and you're being burned eternally, forever, non-stop, no redemption. And according to, if you believe in predetermination, then this God made me knowing that that is where I'm going to end up. And so you worship a God who says that, yeah, I'm making beings to throw into this lake of fire and watch them burn for eternity.
Well, but I told you, I mean this respect, but I did say that I don't know if that God would be good. I don't think he would throw anyone in a lake of fire for eternity. But I'm also kind of like discounting the word that I'm hearing in a way from the books, right? I am going against what they say about hell.
Yeah, but that's what the Bible says. So if you believe in the God of the Bible, then that's what he says in Revelations.
I guess I need to do more understanding, but I have some kind of like, I guess I kind of believe that there is some twisting done in the history of how this word gets to us. That like people's interpretations of hell might trying to figure out how to find the words here.
People's interpretation of hell?
Yes, I guess I got the sense that like Catholicism has a very, or like the early Christian church has a very they want certainty about what's good and bad. And part of having certainty about that is like, but when they think about this destination of punishment, it must be like an eternal punishment if there's certainty about who's good and bad.
You went muffled a little bit right there. They say that again.
Just that that a believer who wants certainty and is reading this book and is hearing from Jesus's word, or hearing from, I actually don't know if Jesus was the one talking about hell in Revelation. I'm sure I'm wrong. But I guess I just imagine that someone who wants certainty is going to believe that the place they wind up in the afterlife is a certain and eternal place. And that for people with evil in their life, they must wind up in a certain bad place forever, right?
Well, no, you don't have to be evil. You just have to not believe in this God. It doesn't say that evil people go to hell. It's okay. So let me read you for your understanding. This is Revelations 20. We're gonna start at verse 11.
Okay.
Then I saw a great white throne and one who sat on it. The earth and the heavens fled from his presence, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were open. Also another book was open, the book of life. And the dead were judged according to their works as recorded in the books. And the sea gave up its dead who were in it. Death and Hades gave up the dead who were in them, and all were judged according to what they had done. Then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death, the lake of fire. And anyone whose name is not found written in the book of life was thrown into the lake of fire. So everybody is being thrown in. These people being thrown into the lake of fire. They're being judged, and they're being judged based on it does say based on their works. Now, what the Bible declares as their works is, if you are a believer in Jesus, then only life can be found through Jesus. Your name is in the book of life only through Jesus, the belief in him. So when people say evil people will go to hell, they are probably utilizing that to say, oh, well, you must have done something because you're being judged by your works. But the Bible clearly states in multiple passages that the only way to heaven is through your belief in Jesus, that you have to accept this God.
Yeah.
You remember it says that those who accept him will find everlasting life.
I mean, I do believe that. I guess I like the passage you just read.
Right. So people are being thrown into this eternal lake of fire. There is no other description of hell. It's just the lake of fire.
Well, but I thought, sorry, I just lost the passage already. Here we go.
I'm having a hard time understanding what you just said. What did you just say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said I lost the passage. I just closed the tab. There we go. But in this passage, it was saying that, let's see. Do you mind if I read part of it, 13 and 14?
Sure.
So it said, the sea gave up the dead that were in it, and death and Hades gave up the dead that were in them. And each person was judged according to what they had done. 14, then death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire, and the lake of fire is the second death.
Yeah, that's what I just read.
Absolutely, but I guess I heard in it that verse 13, I suppose, where it says death and Hades. Oh, sorry, 14. It says death and Hades were thrown into the lake of fire, and before that, it said that the people who were in the book of life get like turned out from Hades. Am I wrong?
Yeah. So here's the understanding. In first and second century, what had become part of the Jewish belief was the Hellenization of Judaism, and that it started actually more around the third century BCE, and then by the time you get to when you're in first and second century, Christians, Jews, they believe that there's a place called Hades, and in Hades, which based on the Greek version, there's places like Elysium, and then there's Tartarus. So Elysium is kind of like a nice heavenly place. Tartarus is a tormented place. In Revelations, the Hellenized versions of where you go after death are thrown away. Now you're going to heaven, or you're going into the lake of fire. So Tartarus, Elysium, the whole thing of Hades is now being thrown into the lake of fire, and all those who are not found in the book of life are thrown into this lake of fire as well. All the people who were found in the book of life are now going up into this new, because before that it talks about a new heaven and a new earth. So it's throwing away the old ideas of everybody goes to Hades, and now you're getting just straight heaven or the lake of fire. Now, in order to do that, though, Mark 16, 16 says, whosoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whosoever does not believe will be condemned. So this is indicating that in order to be in that book of life, you have to believe in Jesus, regardless of anything else that you do. You understand?
Yeah, sorry, I'm taking it in. Yeah, I do understand.
But yeah, it's just most people don't, when they're teaching this in churches and whatnot, they don't go through the whole process of explaining, like when Jesus supposedly went into Abraham's bosom and he got Lazarus out of there, and the rich man who just wanted a drip of water was in Abaddon. Elysium would be Abraham's bosom. Abaddon would be Tartarus. That's the conceptualization of heaven, of after death, during the time frame of Jesus, because they were following a more Greek and Persian version of it. Revelations is getting rid of that.
I see. Okay. Because what I was going to say about hell, that thing before, from Islam, does come from this Persian Zoroastrianism, which maybe you just want to disregard. That's fair. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, I know
they have this. They have this concept of hell that, I mean, to me sounds sweeter, where you're tortured, but it's rightly somehow to the amount of, I feel like it's got to be the amount of like unsight you have when you die. Like if you haven't been like, the thing that made me really believe in the Bible and have this kind of reverence for Islam here, you know, was that it just seems very apparent to me that people in the world, like when they suffer more, it really is redemptive.
It seems like when people suffer more, is redemptive.
Is that a wild thing to say?
Yeah, it's crazy. So what you're saying is that a woman who is in a house and she's being repeatedly raped, that she's going through some type of redemption.
No, yeah, no, I understand.
See, what you're doing is you're taking a blanket and trying to cover everything. By saying that, oh, if people suffer, then that's kind of redemptive. That's more like karma. Um, and with the whole Muslim hell thing, Muslim hell, every non-Muslim is going. You're going to Muslim hell regardless of what you've done or not done in your life because you don't believe in Allah. The only way to avoid Muslim hell is to believe in Allah. So it's the same principle.
Yeah, but my friend, and maybe she was just being sweet to me, but my friend Nada was saying that if she doesn't wear her scarf one day, and if I don't believe in Islam at all in my life, that we're both going to hell. And she goes for just a very little bit, and I go for longer.
Yeah, but
then eventually I do become purified.
You become purified because you start believing in Allah. That's the only way.
I mean, maybe so. Maybe I would if I was suffering a lot in hell, but in his hell. But
I agree that the Muslims have a better version of hell, but it's still not free will. It's still a God who created you to go and knowing that you're going to go to this hell. Allah is just as bad. You don't believe in me because of where you was born and the culture you grew up around, but I'm going to send you to this hell, and maybe I'm going to send you for 50 years, and I'm going to send this person for 100 years. And every night, every day, you're going to be burned alive, and then your skin is going to grow back, and then we're going to peel your skin, and you're going to burn you again for the next day. And we're going to repeat this process until you've satisfied your karma or your dharma. And now you satisfied your dharma by believing in Allah, and you've been purified. Now you get to come up to heaven. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then as far as suffering purifies you, there are children who have been trafficked into sex slavery. What have they done that they need to be purified, or what have they done that they need to go through that to be redeemed?
I don't think, of course I hear what you're saying, that like rape and sex slavery, of course that's it's pretty hard to understand how any child would deserve any kind of suffering, really. But
right. So the whole suffering thing is bullshit. That's just a religious way of trying to ignore, so you can ignore stuff.
That may be true. I'm gonna be thinking about that. And I like that you said I'm trying to cover.
Mm-hmm.
But
man just makes fucked up decisions.
Sorry, what you said?
It simply comes down to man makes some messed up decisions.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with a God.
I mean, so what about the end times though? So after the end times, is there then people that are born, are they going to hell?
After the end times?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the years of tribulation and all that?
I'm not sure. I mean, you were saying that if a child is born here, they don't deserve to go to hell, and they don't deserve. They don't deserve the suffering.
Right.
And then, okay, that's a separate point. I'm getting all mixed up. But you were saying that if God put someone here knowing that they will go to hell, that is a bad God. But I'm saying, isn't there a period of time where God would be putting people here knowing that know, like be able to find a path?
No. The God of the Bible believes that every thought from man is evil from birth. That's what your God says way early in Genesis.
I thought there was, and you were saying earlier that language. And tell me if I'm wrong. You were saying something about language is like kind of wrong, or kind of like full of lies.
What'd you say? I ain't understand what you just said.
Sorry. I thought earlier you were saying that language is like kind of a bad basis and full of lies.
No, I said language is alive. Like language change, the meaning of words change, and that is subjective. We create language. Now we create language.
Yeah.
But
I
if we
guess the one thing I want to throw in before you kick me out of here, because I'm sure. I don't know. I guess I think of like a kid that gets a life that is really just obviously unfair to our eyes. There must be something good.
wait a minute, a
There-
kid who does what?
Who gets a life that's obviously unfair to our
Uh-huh.
reading of it.
Yep.
When we look at them, we say that was a hard life for that kid to have gotten. And there must be some other side to that, right? Or is it
No.
so impossible?
No, there's no other side to it, because let me tell you what your God said in Genesis chapter 8. In Genesis chapter 8, after the flood of Noah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Down in, where is it at? I know it's somewhere in here. Okay. Oh, wait. Yeah. And no, nope, right there where shit. I just saw it. I just freaking saw it, and now I can't find it. See, at the end of 40 days, Noah opened the windows, sent the doves, sent the doves, sent the doves. He waited 7 days, sent the doves, subsided from the earth. He waited the second month, 7th year. Go out of the ark, and the birds and the animal, creepy thing. And Noah went out with his sons and wives. God's promise. Oh yeah, here it is. He said for starting at 20. But Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and every clean bird and offered a burnt offering on the altar. And when the Lord smelled the pleasing odor, the Lord said in his heart, listen to these words, I will never again curse the ground because of humans, for the inclination of the human heart is evil from youth. So this God said, for the inclination of the human heart is evil, not from adulthood, not from any certain age, but from youth. So as far as this God is concerned, from man is evil, from youth. So man is responsible for himself from his youth. And, of course, the Jewish culture starts this at 13? And a lot of people and a lot of countries have adopted, a lot of other people's mentality have adopted that, but there's no specified time frame. So youth, you could be a baby, you could be freshly born. None of those things matter. It's just from your youth.
And every inclination
of your heart is
of a baby is evil.
Yep.
I don't know how that could be. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, so this God doesn't have any regards for somebody who's 9, 10, 6. Everything from your heart is evil, as far as this God is concerned. And this is the God of the Bible. Can't separate the Old Testament God from the New Testament God. They same.
But then, so he is saying this in the Old Testament, though. And he's saying that every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood, in spiritual reading.
Yeah,
But-
it's evil.
But then this is also before Jesus.
Was that
And,
did that
this is
change
for-
the human heart?
no, but it gives a path. It gave him divine inspiration.
Does a 3-year-old truly know what it's saying if a 3-year-old say I believe in Jesus, or are they just repeating what they heard?
Yeah, I don't know.
Does
Absolutely.
a 2-year-old, does a 1-year-old, does an 18-month-old?
Well, okay, yeah, we can find someone who doesn't know for sure. Who
Right.
doesn't, who's saying yes to the word but hasn't heard the word.
I know when I was 7, I was just saying it because that's what I grew up believing. That's what I was told by my parents and my grandparents. Everybody around me believed in Jesus, so why wouldn't I? But I also believed in Santa Claus. I also believed in the Tooth Fairy. So
Yeah.
does that make Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy real?
No.
But I
No,
believed it.
believe it.
I believed it because I was told it. My parents told me when my tooth fell out, put it under my pillow, I get a quarter. I put the tooth under my pillow, I got a quarter the next day. I had proof positive, facts, that the Tooth Fairy existed because there was a quarter under my pillow. So I had more facts to believe in the Tooth Fairy than I did Jesus. Man, that's a good video to make after this. But yeah, I had more proof of the Tooth Fairy. I had more proof of Santa Claus than I had proof of Jesus. So I would dare say that as a child, I believed in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy more than I believed in Jesus because I had facts to back it up.
Yeah,
But
that's interesting.
so, but if you believe in this God, then you have to accept that this God says that everything from a child's heart is from man's heart from his youth is evil, and that regardless of anything, if you do not believe in Jesus, you're going to hell. You're going to go burn it in the lake of fire. So all the Muslims that you talk to, they're going to go in this lake of fire
Yeah.
for all eternity, if you believe in the Bible.
Well, I mean, so clearly, I maybe I just do believe in apocrypha, like stuff that is not right. But so maybe that makes me not really worth talking to. But I don't know. I can't really believe. I can't make sense of the idea that children's hearts have evil inclinations. That doesn't make sense to you either, right?
No, it doesn't. And
But that doesn't it kind of makes my mind want to reread the moment that's being written for the audience that's being written by too. And it makes me want to I wonder about the intent of writing those words is to say steer away from your own reading of the world.
no,
No?
there's you can try, you can convince yourself. So here's the breakdown. Before the flood, this God says that I'm going to destroy man because every intent from man's heart is evil. Right. So before the flood, this guy says the reason for the flood is because every thought from man is evil. So then he does the flood. And then after the flood, this God says that I will never do it again because every intent from man's heart is evil from his youth. So there is just this God saying that, you know what, man is evil, I'm gonna destroy everybody. And after it was over, he says again, you know what, man is just evil, so I'm just not gonna do this again. That's it. There ain't nothing else to read into that. There's no rejection.
Yeah. Well, he says, so he does the flood. He says man is evil. He does the flood.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, he also says man is evil. And I'm just kind of done with these people.
Yeah. He makes a promise to Noah that he won't destroy the earth again. He says, I will never curse the ground because of humans. For the inclination of the human heart is evil from you, nor will I ever destroy every living creature as I have done. So it's almost like this guy regrets the flood because it didn't matter. It's really like the flood never mattered because it didn't change anything, right? So if you go back to Genesis 6, Genesis 6, verse 5, the Lord saw that the wickedness of humans was great on the earth, and that every inclination of the heart, every inclination of the thoughts of their heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he had made humans on the earth, and it grieved him to his heart. So the Lord said, I will blot out from the earth the humans I have created, people together with animals and creepy things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the sight of the Lord. So the whole reason for the flood is that this God was sorry that he made man, because man was evil from his every thought of his heart. And then after the flood was over, he said, you know what, I ain't gonna do this again. And I'm not gonna curse the ground. And really, he's just saying, I'm not gonna curse the ground, and I'm not gonna curse the animals because of the evil of man, because every thought from man is evil.
Yeah. Okay. And then, so then why was Noah, like Noah is just a man though, yeah?
Why was Noah what?
Noah is, like, why is he not part of this, everyone's intentions are evil? Why is Noah righteous?
Well, it just says Noah was found favor with God because he thought Noah was righteous.
I mean,
That
it's hard for me to square those two lines, that the one you just read, 6 verse 5, about every inclination being evil, and then also Noah was righteous.
Yeah, because it says, but Noah found favor in the Lord. These are the descendants of Noah. Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation. Noah walked with God, and Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. So Noah was a righteous man, blameless.
But then how could that be in this world we've been talking about? Tell me if I'm getting frustrated here, Jeff. I'm sure I've already been.
I mean, it cannot really be. Is okay. So first, it's a copy of the Epic of Gilgamesh for the flood story of Atrahasis. That's the first thing. It's just a copycat. It's a copycat story. But if you just leave it, just hold it as the Bible by itself, it is a way. It is just this God destroying everything, but then he realizes, oh, there's one dude who's good, so I won't destroy this one dude, and I'll allow him and his sons to repopulate the earth.
I mean, I love that, but I'm confused about where that line of thinking lands for you. Like, how do you? Because you're saying it, I was getting the sense that you were kind of pushing away.
Oh, I think it's absolutely absurd, because every thought from any human at any age is not evil. Every is a finite word. So there was so like this morning there was a young lady who was struggling to get out the gate. So, and this gate is weird. So I told her, I said, I'm gonna press the button and you open the gate. So that's what we did. Was that an evil thought?
I'm gonna press the button and you open the gate. I don't think so.
Yeah, because otherwise you got to press this button and run to the gate real fast to open it. Otherwise, you'll sit there messing with this damn gate over and over again. So
it's a complicated thing to answer though, because I can say I don't think, like, that doesn't sound evil,
right?
And I can't really even contrive in my head how it would be. But you just told me the words.
Yeah, I was just being helpful. I saw somebody struggling, and I was just being helpful for her struggle because I've been through that same struggle with the same gate.
Yeah.
So how was that an evil thought?
Well, so I don't think it's an evil thought, but like I think I think maybe this is just a super stretch, but if this young woman is is like frustrated that she doesn't get to lead herself in a world like free will, if she's frustrated that she doesn't get to, and I'm sure you weren't doing this, I'm not trying to like point to you, but I'm saying that if she, whether she's thinking like, can I just do this for myself here?
No, she wasn't thinking that at all. She was grateful. She said thank you.
Yeah.
Because she was
Well,
like, I couldn't figure this dang on gate out.
Yeah.
And she was frustrated because she needed to get to work. And she was trying to get to her Uber. So no, she wasn't thinking anything. She thanked me for helping her. And
I'm sure that's right. I'm sure that she liked that interaction, but I guess I'm just trying to say there's some kind of a roundabout way where I can say like this could have been.
No, there isn't. You would have to force it, just like you.
You think so? You can you imagine a person that's like that? That's like so frustrated that they don't get to lead their experience through the world.
Yeah, but how does me opening the gate for her? What is the evil thought there?
Well, there wasn't an evil thought, no. But then,
right. So then the Bible's wrong.
Way,
so the Bible's wrong.
In this kind of way, though, it's kind of right that, like, in this twisted reading that I'm doing.
How is my thoughts evil?
Well, I don't think they were.
Then the Bible's wrong.
I don't think they were to your perception. But so to this lady that I'm imagining, who's different from the one you know, this lady I'm imagining, I get the sense, this is a wild thing to throw out there, but I get the sense that autistic people are frustrated that they don't get to lead in the world much around themselves. Like if that young woman had that experience, she comes up to a million doors and she always gets them open for her.
Trevor, I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna stop
Tell
you
me,
because
kick me out.
You are just making shit up in order to try to justify, to create some justification. That young lady had no evil thought about the fact that I helped her out the gate. She had no evil thought about getting out of the gate. It's not like she thought I ought to break the gate down and tear it up and destroy the property. The gate's not working in a functional way. So you would have to say that everybody who's problem solves is thinking evil.
Well, no. But so I was thinking you're thinking good. And like I'm saying, I think you had a good interaction with this person. But I'm saying also that you can read your actions as good and someone else can read them as bad.
If somebody reads that action as bad, then they're a psychopath. You literally would have
what about this girl that I just made up that doesn't exist, who is just so frustrated?
She doesn't exist, so it doesn't matter. It don't matter if she don't exist.
Well, I do know some girls that get frustrated at not being able to
frustration doesn't equal evil.
Well, what about when I push frustration into you? Is that kind of an evil thing to be doing? Because I might even be doing that with good intentions. I might be saying things that
you're missing the point.
Yeah.
The God of the Bible said that every thought. What does every mean?
It means anything I say.
Right. So of course people have bad thoughts, but every thought. That means that when you help an old lady across the street, that means that while I was on my walk this morning, when I moved off the sidewalk so that this young lady could run on the sidewalk because it's a small sidewalk, that my thought to give her consideration was evil. That her acknowledging it and thanking me was evil. Every thought.
That's a wild. Yeah, I agree with you.
Feeding hungry children is evil. Do you think feeding hungry children is evil?
That's complicated. No, like on its face, no.
Trevor.
Yeah. kick me out of here.
You're not having an honest conversation. If
No,
you
I'm trying to.
there's no way, if I see a homeless person or a hungry child and I give them a sandwich, that is not evil in any form or fashion.
What if I were to? Can I? I'm gonna twist. I'm gonna contrive.
No,
but,
there is no what if. If I pack a bologna sandwich,
yeah.
well, that's disgusting. If I pack a turkey sandwich and I give it to a hungry person, which I have done quite a few times, where is the evil? That is not evil. There's no twist. There's no what if you put poison in it. What if the person is this? And what if the person? No. You go out, you feed the hungry. Now, you're going to be honest or not?
I'm trying to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm trying to say. I think, I feel like I hear what you're saying, and I also feel lost in my own head here.
What you need to stop getting lost in your head.
Thank you.
Because that's called either that's like confirmation bias and cognitive dissonance all mixed together. You're trying to force some type of narrative to think about in order to justify the fact that this guy said that every thought is evil. So then confirmation bias says that, oh, now let me turn every situation into some type of negative so that every thought from man is evil. And that's just not right. That's wrong.
Well, I feel like I'm trying to move it into both. I'm trying to see that, because I came in here feeling like that can't be what my God said, that every thought from man is evil.
But that's what he said.
It seems to be. So it makes me feel like there must be some subtlety to this reading.
No, unless that's confirmation bias. You're forcing something that's not there to be there so that you can justify it. It says what it says. We've agreed that words mean words.
Mm-hmm.
So when people agree that words means words and they write them down, then that's what the words mean. So when they wrote this story of Noah, they meant that every thought from man is evil. And this guy just said, I'm gonna destroy everything on the planet because of man's evil. And then realize, man is always evil. So you know what? I'm not gonna destroy the earth and the animals and the birds because man is evil.
This words mean words thing. What about the way, I'm a white man. Would we read all words and get the same meaning out of them?
If we're honest, we're going to get the same meaning, because what things mean to us today. Now, what things mean to us today is not the same as things may have meant back in certain time frames. So that's why we break down what things meant at that time. But yes, if you and I read the Constitution, and the Constitution says that you have the right to bear arms, right, as an American citizen. Mm-hmm. Only if you decide you have a political leaning and you're going to force a different interpretation of that, that's the only way that it means something different to you.
But then you're saying there's an interpretation that is normal or right. It's more grounded.
No, there's only, the words mean what the words mean. Every American citizen has the right to bear arms. That's what the words mean. You can force it to mean something else, but now you're forcing it to mean something else.
Against who am I forcing?
No, I'm saying you may force it to mean, well, that's only if you are, a certain type of person. Not everybody should be able to bear arms. Maybe only people who go through training should bear arms, or people, you start creating you start adding to it. Instead of just the words say every American citizen has the right to bear arms. That's what it says. Now, of course, we've written a whole bunch of other laws and stuff to mitigate some of that. But even those laws, all right, you got to be 21 years old. All right, you can't have a felony. You know, we've added these other things, but even those words mean what those words mean. If you're not 21, you can't buy one unless it's a rifle, certain types of rifle. If you have a felony, you can't legally own one. That's what those words mean. So if you got a felony, you can't own one legally. But those are words that mean words.
Yeah, those those kinds of things though, like a felony or like my age, that's like it's like a very kind of a measurable thing. Maybe not age, maybe not a felony. It's like they're like attributes that are.
Okay. Don't get caught up into it that deep. Do the
Okay.
words mean what the words mean?
The words do mean what
All
the words mean.
So the word every thought from man is evil means every thought from man is evil. They don't mean anything else but that. And that's what this guy said. And we know that that's not true. So that makes this guy a liar.
It could.
No, it does.
I'm uncertain.
I understand that you're uncertain, and I get it. You're a new Christian who used to be atheist, and you're trying to make it work. But it simply does not work. I would suggest continue to listen, and then study this Bible for yourself. Okay?
Okay.
But we went way past your 20 minutes. Oh,
I appreciate it so much. You were really nice to talk to.
All right. No problem, Trevor. You're welcome back anytime.
Have a good day.
All right. Miss Fifi.
Hey,
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Oh, wow. Yeah, you went over 20 minutes with that guy. But most of it was his confusion.
Yeah.
Or he just couldn't understand it or didn't want to understand it.
I mean, it was a perfect example of confirmation bias. I got to make this fit one way or another. So when I come across things that don't make this God out to be the good, loving, kind father, then I got to figure a way to make him the good, loving, kind father.
Yeah.
And he's just not that. Mm-hmm.
Free will does not exist in the Bible. Prove me wrong.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree or disagree?
I'm thinking of a couple of instances in my head. You can do wrong, but you're going to get punished.
Well, yeah, if you do wrong.
Yeah, you're going to get punished.
Yeah.
So, I guess there's no free will.
Well, yeah, in the Bible, there is no free will. We do have free will in life. But the Bible, your free will is negated by the fact that you either believe in this God or you go to hell. Whether you do good, whether you do right or wrong. Because you could be a good person, but just not believe in this God, and you still go to hell.
Well, you know, the people who started this, the Israelites, not the Israelites, the Israelis, or the whoever, the J people, they started it, but they were just disobedient, and then they had to fight their way all the time. Something happened, a king did this, and the people are punished.
Mm-hmm. And that's only for the Israelites. Other people, other Canaanite groups, according to this book, they were just genocided. You didn't believe in this God, you were a Canaanite, genocide, kill everything that has breath, even the animals, kill them too. Right? Is is an incredibly selfish, self-centered religion. Because a lot of the rules, there are rules that apply to the Israelites, and then there are rules that apply to everybody else. And we see that continuously in this book. And then Christians have their own rules that only apply to them. Because you go to hell if you don't believe in Jesus. You can believe in the Old Testament God, but if you don't believe in Jesus, you still go to hell. So that's why all people who practice Judaism, they're going to hell, as far as Christians are concerned.
It's so confusing.
All right. But according to Judaism, everybody goes to Sheol when you die, and they are still waiting on the Messiah, who will sit on the throne of David and reign forever. There will always be a descendant of David on the throne, and all the countries are going to bend knee to them. So they all have their own perspectives of what they think is going to happen. And of course, none of them know anything of what's going to happen.
Yeah. Paul said that all of this is an allegory.
Well, yeah, Paul wrote that was written in Galatians, where he said the stories about Abraham and all that stuff was allegory. It's an interesting thing because I was thinking about, I don't know, I woke up this morning thinking about this. The fact that in every story of the Bible, when you look at the history of the Bible, you have this super active God, and then he becomes less and less active. The closer to the time frame of somebody writing something, this God is less active than he was in the past. So Paul then says that, well, a lot of this shit is far-fetched, and we can actually count levels of history. So I'm gonna say this stuff was allegory. But if it's all allegory, then there is no lineage of David. There is no Messiah that goes through the line of David. There was no Moses. So there's no Levites through Aaron. So all those things are just made up stuff, man. Yeah. So but Paul is writing to the Gentiles. Paul wants Romans to believe in Jesus. So he's not even concerned about the Jews.
Well, I don't know. Was Paul still a Hebrew or not?
Yeah, he was according to the story about Paul was a Hellenized Hebrew. So he was more Roman than he was Hebrew. He was Roman. He was born into a Hebrew family, but he was Roman in his cultural mindset.
Okay.
And he, if he did exist, he was just trying to get a power grab. He was John Smith, Joseph Smith, or one of them other jokers who created a new denomination of Christianity.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. And he's the one who wrote the predestination stuff in Romans and Ephesians, was writing that God has already decided from the creation who was going to be with him and who was not.
Yeah. So
he believed in predestination. So you don't have free will. All of us who have walked away decided to walk away, and he knew we was going to walk away. And so he made us to walk away so that we can burn in this lake of fire. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Paul was my favorite guy, for a long time.
He's most,
He spoke to the Romans most.
yeah. Well, he's
I loved his teaching, and of course, who he predestinated to do such and such a thing.
Yeah,
it's in there.
well, most non-Jewish Christians would love his teachings because you don't have to follow the law under Paul's teachings. You don't have to sacrifice goats and sheep, and you don't have to, follow the 613 different commandments. So you ain't got to worry about all that if you're under him. So most non-Jewish Christians are going to love Paul. Most non-Israelite, Jewish, Hebrew, they're going to love Paul because Paul makes it easy. All you got to do is believe based on Paul.
Well, he wasn't nice to women.
Well, none of them nice to women. They all treated women like trash.
Anyway, he never was nice to women, saying women can't teach or women can't get certain types of knowledge, or her husband has to tell her what to do.
Yep. And that's how society was that way up until the 1970s in America. The 1970s, when women actually started getting some civil rights, and then other countries did it a little bit earlier, but for the most part, women are still suffering because of the mental damage that Paul did to society. Well, Paul just continued. It was already there before Paul. He just continued the process.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it a lot. Well, I just wanted to come up and say hello.
Well, how you doing?
You know how I feel about all of this. So I'm not going to go through it.
Well, I appreciate you as always.
Nice listening, and you bearing the fruit of the spirit of patience and control and kindness.
Well, thank you, Miss Fifi.
Okay.
Right.
I'll see you later.
See you later. Bye. Bye-bye. One day I'll get to meet Miss Fifi. Federal theology.
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
All right. You're over 21, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And are you a believer in the Bible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the topic is, does the Bible teach free will? What would you need to see for do you need to see free will in the Bible?
I mean, you can find instances where people made choices, but
So when Jesus says he freely gives his life, is he freely doing it?
I mean, sure, Jesus is freely giving his life in the cause of taking on the sins of man.
So is that free will?
Not really, because Jesus is supposed to be God.
He's God and man. The Christian position is he is God and man.
Right. So if
he's made just like his brethren, except without sin. So if Jesus, the man Christ Jesus, is freely given his life, is that not free will?
Yeah, sure. There you go. Wait a minute, hold on. That does not mean, okay, so I understand what you're saying. But if Jesus is God, then Jesus is not giving his life because God cannot die. So so the whole statement in itself is a falsified statement because God cannot die. So it's a moot statement. But to say, there you go, the free will, and so maybe let me pinpoint it even more so.
Sorry, I think I muted myself. Yeah, but the historical Christian position is Jesus took on two natures, so he has the divine nature and the human nature. I mean, that talks about in Philippians too. But he was made like his brethren in all respect, except without sin. So he
Okay, but
has a human nature plus a divine nature, and he freely did, give his life for
nah,
sinners.
so the Trinity is a man-made creation. That is something that evolved over a 200-year time frame of this idea of a Trinity. So nowhere in the Bible does it actually speak of a Trinity. This is something that people have read.
That would be fallacious.
Okay,
That's the exact word concept fallacy.
Here's one thing. Don't interrupt me.
Okay.
All right.
I think there's a lag. Sorry.
All right. So there we can see through documented history of your early church fathers of how they were in argument about whether or not there was a Trinity or not, and that lasted all the way up into the Council of Nicaea in 325. And when the Orthodoxy was backed by the Roman government, then the Trinity became a Christian thing. But prior to that, there were various sects of Christianity that did not believe in a Trinity at all, because the Bible does not truly teach of a Trinity. So that's a debatable point in itself. But if Jesus is God, then Jesus cannot give a life, since God cannot be the concept of a God. The God cannot die nor be less than itself at any time frame.
Who says the God nature of Jesus died? I'm not understanding you.
It doesn't matter if God nature, human nature. If Jesus was God, then God can't die.
In John 1:1, it says the Word became flesh and the Word was God. Do you believe that?
No,
It says that. I'm sure you don't believe it.
No, I don't believe it at all. And
but it says it, right?
Actually, that's an incorrect interpretation. It's an incorrect translation of John 1.
According to what?
According to Koine Greek.
The Greek?
According to the Koine Greek that was written, you said John 1:1?
Yeah, John 1:1.
All right. So the way that it is written in here, it would say that that in the beginning, the word and in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Right? That is, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things came into being through him, and without him, no one thing came into being. Right? So that is one of the things that people stand on for a Trinitarian. But in the Koine Greek, when it speaks of the Word, it says, and it would say, it should be read as, in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was a God, is what it should say, not was with God.
No, the only
because when it speaks of God, it uses ton theos, which means the God. So every time it mentions the Word, it just has theos, which means a God. And so that is a direct separation from the God.
Did Jesus create all things?
No.
It literally says, you read it in the verse, all things came through him.
I understand what that says. I understand what it says in English, but in the original writing of the Koine Greek, it says that it was a God. And that
okay,
God
I won't dispute. Sorry, I can't tell if you're stopping or not.
Yeah, I have these pregnant pauses sometimes.
Yeah, so if you keep reading, it said all things were made by him. Nothing that came into existence didn't come into existence without him. Right?
Yeah, but it was talking about the God.
No. What's the antecedent to all that? The subject is the Word.
What's that? What does antecedent mean?
I'm not able to get off StreamYard and look at my Bible, and I'm driving as well.
No, I mean you use
but
the
yeah,
word.
I won't take your
the word. You use the word antecedents. What does that mean?
I couldn't give you a definition right now.
So
Proper anyway.
I'm not trying to be funny, but you use the word.
Yeah,
and you don't know what the word means.
Yeah, yeah. So I got one more question for you. What's your epistemology? I think I asked it in the chat earlier.
My epistemology. What does that mean?
Yeah, where do you get truth from?
Oh, okay. So where I get truth from is from, well, it's various. That's a hard question to answer because it will be determined on what I'm talking about. So in this instance, where do I get truth from is actually reading the actual Koine Greek and then translating it as the Koine Greek should be translated into English. And when that Koine Greek is translated into English, then it should say, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was a God, and that God was towards the God, and the God, and that God was with the God. And but when it says, and all things were created by him, it is not speaking of the a God, it is talking about the God, that the God created all things. Because it uses ton theos for God and just theos for the word. But what people have done is overlay the a God as being the one who created everything, when it is the God who created everything. Because in Genesis, it uses in Genesis, in the Hebrew, Aramaic, it says that El created all things. El in Genesis
Elohim,
2.
which is plural, right? Which is plural in the Hebrew, right?
No. Yes and no.
It is plural.
Wait, I said it's yes and
Show
no.
me.
It's yes.
Where's an example?
It's yes and no. So in Genesis 1, it uses Elohim, but the surrounding words around Elohim, because Elohim can mean one God or it can mean multiple gods. But all the surrounding words, all the context clues in Genesis 1 indicates Elohim being utilized in the singular form. In Genesis 2, it uses El, which is the singular God, because these are two separate creations. So the word is never mentioned in Genesis 1 or 2.
I can't dispute you on the Greek, but I guess we're trying to get off topic. But I think clearly Jesus did an act of free will, if you believe it or not. You know what I'm saying?
Well, okay, so
I think you granted me that as well, right?
I will stipulate that there are instances in the Bible where you can find people utilizing free will. What I'm saying is, what my focus on today is basically the Adam and Eve story and heaven and hell. You know, if you go to heaven or hell.
Okay, I was just reading the topic.
Yeah, and I can see how that topic, how just the way I wrote it, but I can't write everything that I want to say in it on the topic, otherwise it'd be too long.
So what would be wrong? Is it morally wrong to send people to hell?
If you created them for solely that purpose, yeah.
According to what?
According to the predestination verses in Romans and Ephesians.
No, according to what moral standard?
According to mine.
Is that subjective or objective?
Oh, all morals are subjective. There are no objective moralities.
Has it always been wrong to rape somebody?
Always.
So is that an objective moral reality?
Okay. All morals are subjective. There are no no objective moralities.
I think you just agree with rape has always been wrong. So that's objectively true.
It's subjectively true. Because my moral stance is all rape is wrong.
That's okay. So it would be subjective to send somebody to hell. That would be morally right, subjectively, right?
No, I mean, it's morally wrong to me.
According to me, if I say it's subjective that it is morally right, is it morally right?
To you, it is. But you alone.
Yeah, so it's not. You can't say it's objectively wrong, right?
There are no objective moralities.
Yeah, I don't get the argument. If it's not objective, if it's just everybody's opinion or preference, then there's no truth. You know what I'm saying?
That doesn't necessarily mean that there's no truth in the world, period. But truth is, if something is true, then it can be measured, it can be repeated, and it can be demonstrated. But
Except for morality.
No, there has never been a morality that can be said to be objective. All morals are subjective.
Okay. So there's
would you say that rape is objectively immoral or subjectively immoral?
It's objective because God said it's wrong.
Okay, so then when a young woman is SA'd and the man pays 50 pieces of silver,
yep.
why does he have a different punishment than a man who sexually assaults a woman who is betrothed?
What scripture are you looking at?
I think that's in Exodus. I'm not sure exactly.
All right, I think it's Leviticus.
It's one of them. It's back there somewhere.
Yeah, but I won't hold up your time, brother. I got an appointment. But yeah, I do appreciate you talking to me.
No, it's no problem. But yeah, I appreciate you being here. But yeah, I'm a God that gives you an ultimatum. I don't find that you have free will. That's something that you're forced into. Either love me or go to hell. And I think, and to me, that's wrong.
Okay, well, yeah, that's subjective, right? It's not objectively true.
There are no objectives.
Yeah, but I don't think we have an argument there.
I mean, do Muslims think that if you don't believe in Jesus, you go to hell?
No, they don't believe that.
Right. So then it's subjective.
Yeah, but they're wrong. There's an objective truth. I believe what God said is objective.
In order for that to be true, you have to prove God. You have to prove that this God exists.
Okay.
And
well, I'll leave it there, brother.
Okay, I understand. You gotta go.
Appreciate it.
All right, bro.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, I knew he was gonna. Y'all couldn't see, but I saw when he was on video. I think he's working, so he was gonna be in and out. But I mean, it would have been cool to have a longer conversation about that, because the fact of the matter is, you have to first, in order for there to be objective morality based on this God, you first have to prove that this God exists, and that cannot be done. You cannot prove that this God exists at all in order for this God's morality to then be objective, right? And then this God contradicts himself in that, because he gives stipulations. If the Israelites capture a POW woman, then they can force that woman to marry them, which is essentially rape. So then in that instance, rape is okay, because you're forcing a woman to marry you, and the marriage happens when you have sex. This woman was a POW. So then that rape is okay. I contend that Jacob raped Leah. Jacob was supposed to marry Rachel, but Laban forced Leah to go into the bed chamber. And so Leah didn't have a choice. Leah had to obey her father or be ostracized from her family. So then Leah was forced to give up her pum pum and be married to Jacob. Leah and Rachel's slaves were forced to give up their pum pum so that they can have babies, and then those women can claim those babies to be theirs, which is not how biology works. Hagar was forced into having sex with old ass Abraham. She didn't have a choice. She was a slave. She could either do that or suffer the penalties of what a slave would have to suffer. That's not free will. That's somebody forcing you to do something that you may or may not want to do. So the morality of this God shifts depending upon what the situation is, which then would kind of make it subjective, because it's subject to whatever the conditions. If the Israelites start worshiping another God, then they just kill those ones who worship the other god, as with the events that happened in, I think it was Peor. No, not Peor. Wherever they got with the Moabite women and start worshiping their gods. But if you are a different tribe and you worship a different god, then genocide everybody. Everything that has breath, kill it. This God's morals are subjective to the Israelites because they get the same rule is different for them than it is for everybody else. So even with his supremacy, he is subjective with his morality. Because if you're not his chosen people, then you suffer annihilation and rape. Let's see. Oh, I saw some private comments, but that was from Federal Theology. Let's see, y'all are making some comments. I'm just looking at some of y'all comments. No, you're absolutely right, Jim. Those were stories of Leah and the others, and they weren't instructions given by this God. You're absolutely correct. Those weren't instructions given by this God, but especially since Laban worshipped a different God than the God of Israel. But Laban says that he was following the instructions and traditions of his tribe, and those traditions of the different tribes are based on what they think their God is telling them. Right? So you're absolutely right. But the fact remains, Jacob, being a worshiper of this God, one, how did he not know that that was Leah? Bewilders my mind. But what he did know is when Leah and Rachel were giving their slaves and he was having sex with them, he knew that. He was aware of that, conscious of that, and he was a worshiper of this God. And we're supposed to hold this man in esteem. So you can separate it if you want to. You can separate it however you want to separate it. Whatever makes you feel better. But it's in your Bible. And then when it comes to the laws, as far as a betrothed woman, an unbetrothed woman, when it comes to the laws of if you get some POWs, but if you get some POWs, so this God did say, if a woman is a POW and you want to marry her, then shave her head, let her mourn for 8 days. After that, take her into your bed chambers and you have sex with her. That's rape. That's rape. That's rape. And that's by your God. That is straight up by your God. That is completely the will of this God. Deuteronomy 12. So if you go to Deuteronomy 21, so Deuteronomy, everything in Deuteronomy is commanded by the Lord, right? There is nothing in Deuteronomy that is not commanded by this God. So when he's getting to verse 10, when you go out to war against your enemies and the Lord your God hands them over to you and take them as captives, suppose you see among the captive a beautiful woman whom you desire and want to marry. And so you bring her into your house. She shall shave her head, pare her nails, discard her captive garb, and remain in your house a full month. So I say 8 days, but it's a full month. Mourning for her father and her mother. After that, you may go into her, get the pum pum, and be her husband, and she shall be your wife. But if you are not satisfied with her, you shall let her go free, and certainly not sell her for money. You must not treat her as a slave, since you have dishonored her. So that is Deuteronomy 21. And you have to, what you should understand is that when you're reading Deuteronomy or any verse, anything in the Bible, it is not broken down into these chapters and verses how we have them broken down. So when it starts, so it consistently and continuously says, you know, the Lord God told Moses. And then they continue on with these long ass diatribes of what you're supposed to be doing and what you're not supposed to be doing and all these other rules, because Deuteronomy is the second law, is what Deuteronomy means. And you saying, he said biblically you can only take someone as your wife who consents. Nowhere in what I read did it say anything about a woman's consent. And to take someone as your wife means to have sex with them. That's why I say when you go into her. You go into her. And there is absolutely nowhere in the Bible where it says that that a woman has to give consent. What does it mean to take her as your wife in context with the rest of the law? It means you have sex with her. All this marriage certificates and ceremonies and all that kind of stuff is additional man-made shit. The marriage begins when you have sex. This is why if you're in, I know in Georgia, I don't know about other states. If you have had sex with a woman within 30 days and you're legally married, you have to not have sex with her for at least 30 days before you can get a divorce. And yes, sex without consent is rape. So when they see these POW women and they want to take her and they think, oh, she's cute, I want to marry her. Let her mourn for a month, and then boom, boom, bang, take into the bed chambers, go into her, and she's your wife. No ceremonies, no marriage certificates. All that is just legal shit. That's legal stuff we've created in order to separate property in case of a divorce. So that woman does not have free will. Shocker. Maybe they meant the shocker. Those who know what this is. Give her that shock treatment. I know Kevin Willis know what this is. I'm betting. Let me rephrase. I'm betting that Kevin Willis knows what this is. Know that shocker. I mean, some people, but that puts a strain on this finger. I knew Kevin would know. Debbie. Debbie, you don't know what that is? I want you to think about it. Think about it, Debbie. You got some good control with me. Think about it, Debbie. And Debbie, if you don't know what that is, you've been missing out. You've been missing. Brian, come on, bro. Brian, you got to know what that is. Brian, you got to know. What Jim said should help you understand. Oh, you. Okay, y'all taking me out. Y'all taking me out. Let me get back to what we talking about. I don't even know who started that. I think I started that. So my apologies. My apologies. My apologies. My apologies. Oh, this is interesting. Even when it comes to worshiping the beast, there is no free will. The Bible says that everyone on earth will worship the beast unless their name is written in the Lamb's book of life since before the foundations of the earth, which is in Revelation 6:13, 16 through 17. The beast forces all people to receive the mark on their right hand and their forehead, without which they cannot buy or sell. I didn't even think about that one, Isaac, and you're absolutely right. Oh, and I want to thank you. Isaac is the reason we're having this conversation today. This was a conversation. This was a suggested conversation by Isaac. So y'all can thank him for that one. But yeah, I didn't even think about that. Even with the beast, you're not going to have free will. If you don't find yourself sealed by this God, written in the book of life, you will worship the beast. Brian, you said read your question, but I didn't see your question. Oh, wait a minute. I think you're talking about this one. Coach, have you ever heard of the Deuteronomification era where they had little books of Deuteronomy, and that was before they wrote the Bible? Is that true, or did you hear of it? No, I don't know. It doesn't come to memory right now, but I don't know. I can't recall that. I'm not even going to respond to that. Okay. Anyhow, that verse is not isolated from the rest of the law, meaning rape is still wrong. Therefore, taking a wife had to be mutual. I think it's common sense. No, it's not. It is not common sense at all. This is one of the reasons why we have the Geneva Convention. Most people just look at the Geneva Convention and realize that, like if I got food and water, I got to make sure I give my captives food and water, that I can't mistreat them. But also within the Geneva Convention is the fact that I can't take advantage of a woman who is captured as a POW. Because based on the Bible, you can take a woman who is a POW and force her to become your wife and have sex with her. It is not. I want you to think about this, since you said common sense, Jim. Think about this in a common sense thought process. A woman just watched her mother and father get killed in battle by the enemy. One of the enemy wants to marry you and think you, because they think you cute. You think that woman truly wants to marry that enemy? Do you know how many women were forced to carry German babies when France was captured by Germany. These women who didn't do this willingly. You can research history and see that. We can always find some isolated story. You mentioned in Pocahontas. You can find an isolated story where a woman went willingly, but in the Pocahontas story, they didn't come in and decimate her family. They were supposedly working with her family, working with her tribe. And so she went willingly with someone who she thought was a friend. Pocahontas went with someone who they thought was a friend, not someone who was an enemy, right? People who were brought over as slaves from Africa. These women were not trying to have sex with these slave masters because the slave master was their enemy. This was not willingness. Even when they forced these women to, after the transatlantic slave trade had ended in America and you had to breed your own slaves, these men who went around to different different plantations impregnating women, these women didn't have choices, nor did the man have choices. This is something they had to do. There's the guy in Brazil who fathered like 2,000 kids or something like that. He wasn't doing this willingly. Yeah, they treated him great. He had a great lifestyle, but he didn't do this willingly. This was his job. And those women had to take it, literally take it. So in any time frame where there is conflict between two people, women don't generally, the average woman is not saying, "Ooh, yeah, this my enemy like me. I'm gonna go and he want me to be his wife. I'm gonna let me take it. Let me get into the bed chamber. I don't need a whole month." Think about it. They have to give them a whole month to mourn. You think in that morning that they are sitting there thinking like, yes, I want to marry this man. I really want him to have sex with me. I have hardly ever used this term, but that is some serious ass mansplaining. And if we're going to do the it happens, then you can just, everything happens. Everything happens. But come on, man. Look, okay, everything happens. There are some underage girls who consensually have sex with older men. So since that happens, then all other older men who have sex with younger women, we should not call that a crime. I mean, that's that level of thinking. That's that level of thinking. If it happens, there are young girls who have sex with older men willingly. So all men who have sex with younger girls underage, all that Epstein shit, well, just ignore it because it happens. And in the context of this is a woman who is a POW. And I don't know if you ever served or you know people who served. Please go find a Vietnam veteran who was a POW and get his mindset of him being a POW. And although I did not have to serve as a POW, I was very aware. Many of you may not remember, but there was the first woman fighter pilot who fought in Desert Storm. Her plane was shot down. She was captured. She was a POW. Before going to the war, she was like, yes, women should serve in combat. Yeah. But after her POW experience, and she waited until she got out, then she flipped the script. Hell no, women shouldn't serve in combat because of the way she was treated during her POW time frame. At no point in time did that woman want to be violated as she was violated during that time frame. So, no. And the context of that situation, the woman is a POW. That in itself tells you it's an adversarial situation. The fact that she needs to mourn her father and mother tells you it is not a consensual situation. It doesn't say if the man sees the woman and he wants to marry her and the woman sees the man and she wants to marry him. It just says if the man sees her thinks she is beautiful and wants to marry her. And nowhere does the context suggest the woman wanted to marry the man. That is some mental gymnastics. What? Polyandry is not free. Come on, man. If a person chooses polygamy or polyandry, it is free will. Now, I haven't read this hadith, so I'm just taking this off what Brian is saying. He said the Prophet Muhammad died because the Jewish woman poisoned him. He killed her father and destroyed their town and took her as a sex slave. And she ended up cooking for him and poisoned him. It's in the hadith. A lot of Muslims don't even know that. They know he was poisoned though, but not how. But it's in their scriptures that they don't read. Because that's the mentality of someone when you kill their family. I don't think you're talking to me. I think you might be responding to somebody else. Because there's no way that's not talking about two different stories. You must be talking to somebody else. Again, federal theology, to be specific, I was talking about your free will when it comes to being tossed your ass into the lake of fire. And we talked about Adam and Eve and their situation of calling that free will, since that's the free will one that most Christians throw out is Adam and Eve. Yes, you can find some free will in the Bible. You can find where people made decisions on their own to do something freely. Hell, I can point out some of those. You know, Esther made the free will choice to spend one night with Xerxes because the customs were once somebody conquers you, they usually would marry somebody within that group, that people group, and they will serve as a concubine or representative of those people. Yes, you can find some free will in the Bible. I am not saying that there is, and maybe I should have titled this differently for the one person who you don't seem to get what I'm talking about. I've expressed it 11 different times. And the reason why I say Adam and Eve didn't have free will is because they were without the knowledge of what the circumstances were that this God had given. And the God lied because they didn't die the day that they ate from the tree. So even though you can technically say they had free will to choose to obey or disobey this God, they were set up in an entrapment situation where they wouldn't have the knowledge to be able to make a truly free will decision. And that's the difference. This is why we have laws that protect children. This is why we have laws that protect the mentally handicapped, and we have laws that protect people who have been through, or they're not, what do we say, they're not their mental capacity. We have laws to protect these people because we know that if your mental capacity is diminished, then you're truly not making a free will choice. You're making a coerced choice. You're making a choice with a lack of information. And when you trick somebody into a decision because of their lack of information, that is not on the same free will standing point as someone who has the information, right? So let's say I, in my current consciousness right now, was in the garden, and I understand what death is, and I understand who God is, and I understand who this serpent is. And then if I make that decision, then you can give me free will. But if I have a smooth brain, I don't know what disobeying is. I don't know what death is. I can't tell the difference between this God who's talking and this serpent who's talking. I don't know their authorities. Then the decision I'm making is a diminished capacity decision. So, and we're not talking, I don't have to have infinite knowledge, just a basic knowledge. Basic. Give me some basic. Life and death is basic. That's a basic knowledge. Knowing what disobeying means. What does it mean? Just like federal use a couple of words that I don't know the definition to. So because I didn't know the definition to them, I didn't answer them. I was like, well, what does it mean? Give me the definition. Because I can't answer the question if I don't know what the words mean. So you got to have the mental capabilities. Adam and Eve did not have the mental capabilities to be able to make an informed decision. And we have it within our own laws. Like, let's say you have a parent and that parent has dementia. Well, we do not give those parents free will to make most of the decisions in their lives because they have diminished capacity. We don't allow children to make certain decisions in their lives because of diminished capacity. That's one of the political things that people are fighting right now. Should a child be able to get a sex change operation if you're under a certain age? We tell them no, because you don't have the mental capacity to do so. Others are saying yes, because they believe they do have it, which is why it's all subjective. That is a subjective thing. But when you have some people who don't know what death is, they're not capable of making a decision. They can't, you don't. And this is why the overwhelming majority of things in our lives, of how we live our lives and how we conduct ourselves in society, are all subjective. To go back to the subjective and objective and subjective argument, most things are subjective because one person is going to say that, oh, no, they had enough mental capacity. The other people are going to say they don't. I got this one dude talking to me, and then I got this serpent who talking to me. I don't know the difference between good or evil. So how would I know if the serpent is telling me something that's good or bad? How would I know if this God is telling me something that's good or bad? How would I know what their authorities are? One says that I'm going to die if I eat it. Hell, the woman went even further and said, we'll die even if we touch it. Because the God of the Bible didn't say if you touch it, you'll die. He only said if you eat it, you'll die. She added her own stuff to it. Yeah, no. Now we're assuming that they didn't know what death was. Yeah, they had, according to the Bible, there had not been any death. God made everything was alive. Most Christians accept that the first time something died is when this God killed something to make clothes for them. Someone said, oh, somebody must have said something about they have the capacity because they named all the animals. Then why are we still naming animals? We know that whole naming animals is a lie because we still naming animals. Oh, and this is a good thought. Thank you for saying this. The law was written on Adam and Eve's heart, reference Romans 1 and 2. So somebody who's writing 4,600 years later says that, hey, it was written on Adam and Eve's heart. I want you to think about that for a second. Somebody's writing 4,600 years later, 4,700 years later, saying what was on somebody's heart, what somebody knew. That's like me saying Adam looked at Eve and thought, damn, she fine. I have no fucking idea if that's what Adam was thinking. That's why people have created all kinds of stories. Lilith. Some people say that Adam didn't like Lilith because he watched Lilith being created. And when he saw her innards and all that kind of stuff, he was disgusted by it. I forgot what group of people says that. They just making shit up. Just making shit up. But we can only go by what the words say. And if a person doesn't know the difference between good or evil, then they don't know what disobeying is. They don't know a lot of shit. Think about that level of mentality when you don't know the difference between good or evil. In the Isaiah chapter 7, when it talks about the young woman who will give birth to a son, and before that child knows how to choose the good over the evil, Ahaz would have defeated his enemies. Obviously, they understood in Isaiah, there's a time frame where a child doesn't know how to choose good over evil. So when the brain doesn't know good or evil, it doesn't know how to choose the difference between good and evil. This is in your own Bible, where it talks about the child not knowing how to choose good and evil. So Adam and Eve not knowing good and evil will be like that child who doesn't know how to choose good over evil. This is the state of Adam and Eve. Now, I'm going to drop the link again, not because you put $2 in there, but I always want to thank people who support the channel financially. And I got to say, I'm impressed. Usually people who support the channel financially are people who are in agreement, because I will never use that word agreeance, even though we have accepted it. But I'm always going to give props to that. So I appreciate you for supporting the channel, Federal Theology. See, and here's the thing. Not because, well, it's because he donated money, but that shows something, that every person who believes in the Bible is not somebody that we have to then shun. It reminds me of this dude named Alton Bolton. He used to come on Kevin's show and we would argue tooth and nail. But then me and Alton would go out for lunch. I helped Alton start his leadership academy. I gave him consultation on his leadership academy that he was doing in Atlanta. So we shouldn't be mad and angry. And and that's what that means to me. Appreciate the donation, Federal.
Yep. Welcome.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope you heard everything I just said about how we can have these debates or conversations, but it doesn't mean we have to judge people's character and think that they're just the worst people in the world.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you had more. You got a break.
Yeah, I got a couple minutes. I'm trying to understand your free will argument, and it sounds like you're saying because they lack a specific amount of knowledge, therefore they lost free will or didn't have it.
Yeah, it's not truly free will, because their diminished capacity wouldn't allow them to make certain decisions, right? Like
I had asked your, sorry.
So I was just going to give the example of, we wouldn't let a 3-year-old drive a car down the highway because they lack the capacity, the mental capacity to be able to make those determinations, right?
Yeah, that's not free will. That's permission. A 3-year-old can still freely get into a car and crank it up and drive it.
True, they can, but
So
we know
could you redefine it for me? Can you redefine free will?
So the free will is defined as being able to freely make decisions without coercion, without without punishments uh, that looms over your decision. So when you, and then I also add that when a person doesn't have the capacity to understand the decision that they're making, then they're not making a free will decision because they lack the maturity to do so.
So if a newborn cries because they're hungry, are they freely crying?
They're freely crying, but they don't know why. I mean, they're just crying because they feel pain. So for them, their pain is why they're crying. They don't understand hunger and that sort of thing, but then they just know that they if when I cry, when I feel this, I get this food. Over time, they learn and come to an understanding of why they are crying.
So you would agree that they're freely doing it, though, regardless of the amount of knowledge they have. They're freely doing it.
In the strictest sense of the word, yeah, they're freely doing it.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's some definitions we just need to work out. You know what I'm saying? That's where I think the confusion is.
Yeah, in this situation, in the situation of Adam and Eve, in the strictest definition of the term free will, they had the free will to make that decision in the strictest form of it.
Can I give you my definition? Sorry.
Sure.
So my definition of free will is man chooses according to his nature. He will always choose his greatest desire, and it's always compatible with what the will of God is.
I don't know if I put that together.
That's the Bible.
Okay, but see, man's greatest desire does not line up with God's will, because in Genesis 6 and in Genesis 8, this God said that every thought from man is evil from you. So
yeah, it is.
So how does that line up with God's desire? That every thought
because
from man
in Ephesians, I mean Romans 8, you quoted a few times. All things work together for those who love God. In Ephesians 1, it says God works all things after the counsel of his will. You know the story of Joseph, about him being sold into slavery?
Yeah.
So you got Genesis 50, right? The brothers sold Joseph into slavery. Joseph said, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. They freely sold Joseph into slavery.
You're breaking up, but I think I got what you said. Okay. So you can point out that's a good example that would support what you're saying. So let me hit you with another one though. According to Ephesians 1 and Romans 8, with that predetermination, then all those people who are good parents, good mothers, fathers, brothers, uncles, do good things in the world, but don't believe in Jesus, they all are predetermined to be burned into a lake of fire because they don't believe in Jesus. That's God's will.
Yes.
And all the people who were in the Americas for
they
thousands
freely
of years
reject God.
Hold on. All those people, and a lot of those people are like the people who was in Americas before Christianity ever came to America. They never heard of this God. So
right.
They never had the opportunity to reject this God, but they all go into this lake of fire.
Have you read the book of Romans? Romans says otherwise. The Bible does not teach that.
What does Romans say that would be otherwise? Because historically,
everybody was out. It's without excuse. That's what Paul says in Romans 1, Romans 2. Because by nature, God.
Wait. You broke up. You say everybody what?
In Romans 1, Paul is laying out an argument how everybody knows God. Not in a salvific sense, but I mean he's appealing to nature and your conscience. About people being made in the image of God. You know murder is wrong because you're made in the image of God. Paul makes an argument in Romans 1.
Paul's argument is a narrow view of the world, and therefore is not an actual truthful view of the world.
Well, are we arguing what the Bible teaches, or what do you believe?
Well, it's a little bit of both, because I don't agree with what the Bible says quite often. So you're saying
So
that Paul is saying that everybody in the world knows this God?
Yeah, he said everybody is without excuse. All have sinned. Romans 3 says that.
Okay, so how can a person who has never heard, sin is to go outside of this God's will. How can a person who's never heard of this God know that they are going outside of this God's will?
Romans 5 says all have sinned in Adam. Everybody, when Adam sinned, all sinned.
Is it Romans 3 or Romans 7? I mean Romans 5, because you keep flipping it on me now.
Well, I'm making, you're saying how everybody sinned if they don't know. I'm saying it all makes the argument in Romans 5 that all sinned in Adam. When Adam sinned, everybody sinned.
You broke up.
Romans 5 said when Adam sinned, all man sinned in Adam. Because he was a representative.
So how can that be true when there were people on the planet before Adam?
According to what?
According to archaeology. According to
What
archaeology. So according to biblical chronology, Adam would have been created in around 4600, 4700 BCE. But according to archaeology, civilizations had already been in existence before 46 and 4700 CE. Man had been on the planet long before 46 and 4700 BCE.
And that was according to what? I'm confused. I can't tell if you're doing an internal critique.
So
it seems like you're flip-flopping.
No. So according to archaeology, man has been on the planet longer than Adam, the Adam story. So all man does not come from Adam, and so then all man cannot be held accountable for Adam. So that would make the whole Adamic story a lie.
Yeah, I wouldn't grant that, because you need God to do science. You need God to do everything, because you need logic, right?
No, we don't need God to do science. 97% of scientists are atheists.
Yeah, well, the first scientists were all Christian. What I'm saying is, as far as using logic, where do you get logic from?
I think you said as far as using logic, where do you get it from? Is that what you said?
Yeah, like we need the rules of logic. Yes, we need the rules of logic to do science, right?
Okay, so logically, we know that the Sumerian and Egyptian civilizations were around in 7,000, 6,000 BCE. That predates Adam.
No, I'm asking you to justify logic. Justify the use of logic. Why can't I contradict you, and why can't you contradict me?
Why can't I contradict you?
Yeah, the law of non-contradiction. Why can't we break that?
I have to look up what the law of non-contradiction is, because
are you familiar with the laws of logic, or logic in general?
I'm relatively familiar with them. All right, the three fundamental laws of logic rooted in the Aristotelian philosophy are the laws of identifying non-contradictions and excluded middle. So the law of non-contradiction asserts that contradictory prepositions cannot both be true at the same time. Okay, so yeah, I do know that. I just didn't know it under that name. So you're absolutely two positions can't be true at the same time. And Adam, being the first man, cannot be true at the same time as man existing prior to Adam. But archaeology shows us that civilizations existed before Adam. So then the Adamic story would not be true.
I'm asking you to justify why contradictions are wrong.
Why can't? Because two things can't be true in most instances. Two things can't be true at the same time. Most instances.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, sorry.
when we can identify facts, then one is either true and one is false. And in this instance, we can identify the facts.
I'm asking, like, what's wrong with a contradiction? Who says contradictions are wrong?
You broke up.
I'm losing service, I believe, but I'm only asking, how can you justify using logic? I'm trying to get in your epistemology, but I'm gonna get off here because I am losing.
Yeah, I don't know. You're in the middle of nowhere, man, with that old raggedy service. Need you to get some better service. But,
All right, bro, have a good one.
All right, have a good one. I'll explain while I'll hopefully explain what I'm saying. So there are very few instances where two things can be true at the same time. But when we have facts, then logically, one has to be true and one has to be false. And if we had no archaeological evidence of any humans on the planet prior to the story of Adam, which happens in 4600 BCE, then the Adamic story can be true. But as soon as we discover facts that man existed prior to the story of Adam, then we say that the Adam story is false, because both of those cannot be true at the same time. Adam cannot be the first man, and all men on the planet come from Adam if there were men on the planet before Adam. So therefore, Adam's story is a false story. What up, Scott?
Hey, how's it going, man? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Gotcha.
None of that echo?
Nah, yeah, no echo today.
Okay. No, I was just listening in, and I think what the last guy that was on the federal theology dude was asking you, he was asking you to justify logic. So he wasn't asking you how you apply logic in this case. He was mainly asking, he was trying to use what they call a presuppositional argument. So basically what he's saying is, for you to appeal to logic, there has to be a reason. But when you appeal to logic and you say, well, I appeal to logic because it's logical, that's circular reasoning.
Right.
So what he's going to tell you is, so instead of going viciously circular, he's going to say, well, you can't do logic without God to begin with, because God, by definition, is the logos. He is the grounding of logic, all mentality, so to speak. Like anything having to do with mentality has to be grounded on mentality, not just saying it, just saying, well, it's logical. Well, why? He's always asking you, why is it like, why do you accept logic? And you're going to say, well, because it's true. Well, that's kind of like begging the question. So it's sort of like an apologetic tactic, just to kind of let you know. So that's what that was all about. And I think you were missing that whole point.
Yeah, I completely missed that whole point, because, you know, in my worldview, I would simply just understand that if I have facts and I understand what those facts mean, then those facts give me an understanding, and then I apply that understanding to the world, which then gives me my correct information or my wisdom.
Right.
It's called, so I would apply that to the trivium. That's called the trivium, where you just gather facts. It's not about, and then to go into the whole thing about God provides the mental capacity to be able to have logic, you would first have to be able to prove that this God exists in order for me to accept that this God is the one who created my ability to recognize facts, understand those facts, and then put those facts into practice.
Well, I'll just for the fun of it.
Wait,
I'll,
hold on for 1 second. Hold on for 1 second. Thank you again, Federal. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Man, look, let me do the thing. Federal is not doing all you other guys. Federal is supporting the channel more so than you. Ain't that's how they do it on YouTube and stuff? Federal is donating to the channel more than you other guys who agree with me. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, so I was going to just play devil's advocate. So I'd say, okay, so we'll start there. So you say you just gather logic because why? Like, why do you appeal to logic?
Not gather logic, gather facts.
Okay.
You see, in order to think critically, you have to be able to, and critical thinking is what creates logic. In order to think critically, you have to be able to first gather facts. When you gather those facts, you have to then understand what those facts mean individually and then what they mean when you put them together. After you understand what they mean, then you can apply those in order to walk in the wisdom of that understanding.
So you're describing the function of logic and skeptical thinking and all of that. But what about what he was asking, like ontology? Like, how do you ground logic?
How do you ground logic?
God. Yeah, if not God, where does any mentality come from?
Experience.
And where does that come from?
Living.
Okay. So basically living is just, you're going to go back, and then he would probably say, well, where does life come from? And then we kind of go off topic.
And life comes from, we don't know. At the end of the day, going as far back as we can possibly go, we don't know. But we do know we are here. No matter how astronomical the math is as far as our existence, the fact that we do exist means that the 1 in 1 quadrillion happened and we're here. So but nobody knows why and how.
So if you don't know why you appeal to logic,
no, I know logic.
Like just going off that. So let's say the root of your epistemology, the how you know things to be true, or how you know or come to believe what you believe. Ultimately, you don't know. So he would ask, so why should anyone trust anything you say?
Because the facts can be demonstrated, measured, and repeated. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to believe what I'm saying. It's not what I'm saying that I'm asking you to believe. It is what are the facts when you examine them yourself. What do they say? So
right, and you apply. So knowledge is applied to the facts. Logic is. It's applied. In other words,
logic is applied to the facts.
Yeah, like
not logic being the
fact. There's a fact that if I drop the rock out of my hand, it's going to hit the ground, right?
Right.
So logically, I say, well, when you drop rocks out of your hand, they're probably going to hit the ground. That's logic. So I'm applying logic based on those facts, those observations, right?
Yeah.
So there's 2 steps in that. So there's the, you might say a dog or a cat. They may not understand that. They may, but let's just imagine a baby or somebody that doesn't have logical skills. They just see a lot of stuff happening.
Yep.
They don't have any logic to really build any sort of story about dropping rocks and them falling to the ground and stuff. They just know, they don't even know anything. They just see rocks falling and hitting ground. Mm-hmm. They're not doing logic. But what he would say is to get to that other step, you have to ground that part. It's not just the observation. There's a part of you being human that is able, that has that ability to bridge that gap between the facts in a story, a coherent story. And we call it logical inference or something like that. So he'll
Okay.
say, so without God, you can't ground it, because otherwise you're grounding logic into what?
But
You're
see,
just-
that's where the flaw is. That's the flaw of their argument, is
Yeah.
the God of the gap. Because we don't know, then you apply a God to the gap of I don't know, when there is no proof of your God. So without proof of God, how can you ground it in God when you can't prove God exists, because you're going off of belief?
Right. That kind of like is that would be unparsimonious, or it would be like a violation of what they call Occam's razor. It's like you're using, you know, an unjustified amount of entities to explain something. Like it's not necessary. Gods aren't necessary
Mm-hmm.
to explain logic. Like that's like adding more stuff into the story than is necessary. Like
Right.
all you have to say is reality. You know, reality is what it is. And that's what I'm grounding it in. But when
Yeah.
you start saying gods that answer prayers and smite the Philistines and send their son to die, you know, you're adding a bunch of properties into the story that's unnecessary.
And that becomes a violation of Occam's razor, because instead of the simplest answer being the answer, you're creating complexity,
Right.
unnecessary complexity, because then every culture around the world throughout time immemorial have created literally tens of thousands of gods. Oh, well, he outdoing y'all again.
Uh-oh.
He outdoing.
Exactly.
But that's and that's the whole thing, that they say you have to ground it in God, but you don't. That's adding too much complexity to a simple story. And
Right.
the simple answer is we don't freaking know. But the things that we do know, we know.
Right. And adding complexity unnecessarily is actually illogical. So if God is the author of logic, then he makes it impossible to use him as the foundation of logic, because to do so would be illogical.
I like that. I like
See how that works? Kind of neat how that works.
Exactly. Yeah, it does. And it's illogical that a God would create a storyline that he would know at some point in time we would realize the history that this God creates is a false history.
Yeah, so federal theology would say, well, you use logic, but you need to justify the origins of it. No, well, first of all, I don't think you really do.
No,
You
you
don't
don't.
have to justify it. If you want, you know, if you want to engage, some people worry about that stuff and some people don't. So if you worried about like, where do I get my logic from? I think it just comes from nature, you
Yeah,
know,
I
and
mean,
you can be just as partial. You can be just as, actually you can be more parsimonious by just saying, you know what, it's just natural. It's nature. Logic
right.
comes from nature.
Exactly. Logic comes from, and here's the thing about it, depending upon the capacity of everything that lives on the planet, everything develops its own levels of logic based on living, experiencing, and in our case, measuring and repeating. But you know, if a dog experiences getting his ass whooped every time it pisses in the house, then the dog logic is to stop pissing in the house.
Right.
And it learned that by experience of living. So, and that is the foundation of the development of all logic, which is also the development of all science, is that we observe, we experience, we live, we observe, we experience, we measure it, and then we see the repeated pattern and we come to the conclusion.
Man, I agree with you so much on that, because it's seen so obvious in nature that even every aspect is kind of like it's on a scale or something. It's not necessarily like humans are the epitome of logic and learning and stuff. It's like the entire story of evolution is one about learning from what works and what doesn't work and adapting to the new information or the new environment or whatever. It's like that's the basis of logic, because that's the basis of learning and adapting. If you weren't, if you acted incoherently, you would never survive, because you
No.
would jump off mountains, jump out of windows. You would do a lot of illogical bullshit. But because you are able to learn and adapt to situations, you know how to survive. Like, that's just kind of common sense to me. But, I think a lot of people, they want to make God the necessary thing for everything, and that's just an emotional kind of appeal. It's like they're so emotional. They want to feel some kind of way, and God makes them feel that way.
And they're indoctrinated into the belief that there has to be a God that has done this or done that until they find something scientific that disproves their God. They used to think that Yahweh brought the storms. No one thinks Yahweh brings, even Christians know storm patterns. You live in the Caribbean, you go every so often you're gonna get a hurricane. Not because God sent the hurricane, but because we understand the storm pattern. Yeah. And so logically, either deal with it or get the hell out of there. But it's gonna happen. It's gonna come, because that's just the way the weather works.
Absolutely. Hey, I had another thing I wanted to kind of pivot to really quick. I don't have much time, but okay. I thought I would bring this up because it was brought up earlier. As you know, I used to be real religious and a Bible thumper and all that kind of stuff, and I'd get this all the time. So I'm just kind of wondering how you deal with this situation, because you had brought up like paying the father the 50 shekels of silver because his daughter had been raped and lost value, right? So that's in like Deuteronomy 22:29.
Okay.
But if you go to like a few verses earlier to 25 or 26, I think it is, it talks about if a man and he grapes a woman and gets caught, then he's to be killed. Like that's his punishment. He's supposed to get killed, right? But then in the verse 29, it talks about, well, if a man and a woman lay together and they're found out, they're discovered, then he should pay 50 shekels and marry the woman and not divorce. So the way I understood it back then as a Christian was that one is talking about the grape, but the other one is talking about fornication. So I'm wondering, are you seeing it the same way? Or are you saying that both situations are grape?
Both situations are rape. And the distinction is that the woman in the earlier version, which is in
25, I think.
Well, it actually starts even earlier than that, because it gives a bunch of different breakdowns of how it works. So like in 22, it says, if a man is discovered lying with the wife of another man, then both shall die. The man who lay with the woman and as well as the woman. 23, it says that if a young woman who is a virgin already engaged to be married to a man, if he rapes her in a town, you should bring both of them to the gates of the town and you stone them to death. But should the woman, and the reason why the woman is killed because she didn't cry out for help while she was in the town.
Right.
But if he rapes her out in the open countryside, because there was no one around to hear her cry, then only the man is killed. Then 28 starts with, and you got to read 28 to get 29. It says, if a man meets a virgin who is not engaged and seizes her. So that's the key point that many pastors don't talk or teach or people ignore. When he seizes her and lies with her, it doesn't say that they lied consensually. it says that the man seizes her. And the word that is used there means to seize somebody aggressively, to grab, to take hold of them aggressively, which is
I see.
right. And then he pays the 50 shekels because he's violated her, because he's violent. And then that's the other part, because he's violated her. How else do you violate someone?
Okay. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. I see where you're coming from. It's just if you look at it online, it'll be disputed, that it's actually between either raping or fornication or whatever. But when you say that word seizing, that does kind of make a big difference for me. Because why would you have to seize someone in order?
Exactly. You got to seize it. That's the key part there, is the seizing her. She didn't seize him. They didn't lie together not conceptually. They didn't have an agreement to do this. He seized her. And some people have even went as far as say, "Oh, this is kind of like when you have rough sex and you want your man to just grab you and throw you down, and you agree to it." No. I've literally had women who was trying to justify it through that means. I'm like, oh, hell no. Are you serious? I can understand a man going down that route, but a woman saying that, I was like, no, live your fantasy somewhere else. But in the Bible, that is not part of it.
Yeah, don't project your crap on your freakiness onto the Bible.
Yeah. I ain't saying it's a bad freakiness now. That sometimes it's good when you just woman come home and you just snatch her up.
Yeah,
but y'all
right.
already agreed to be in this relationship where you could do that.
Right. But it's not when you're a stranger on the road, it's not cool.
Exactly. If I just rolled up on some woman and I just see, like when I was in the gym this morning, the young lady in there, if I seize her, that is not her willing participation.
No. That's jail time.
Yeah.
For sure. Hey, thank you so much, man, for that. I got to get out of here, but I just wanted to participate a little bit while I could. So.
All right. I appreciate it.
Brother. Yeah, man. Till next time.
All right. Till next time. We got Zahatsu.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Greetings, brother. I'm doing good. Great. I always enjoy your show and the stuff that you are presenting to people. Just to kind of comment onto what the guy was saying, kind of like disputing the logical thing and saying how could you not accept the contradiction, right? And trying to base the like God is central to anything that's logical.
Right.
Okay. So the thing is, most of us are not taught the concept what is referred to the law of consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you were trying to say is that what is consistently demonstrated throughout life and throughout the planet is how we develop a logical system.
Right.
Problem is with Christianity, it is subject to interpretation. It is no consistency. So someone else can take whatever scripture that they want and they can interpret it how they want. And this is why you got various denominations of churches and Christians, because they all interpret the Bible the way that they see fit, right? There's no consistency, right? So, so I think that this guy just has assumptions and limitations based upon his scope of knowledge, but he wants to still fit everything in to his system of logic, in which everything is centered around God being the source of the God of the Bible. not the prime creator of the universe. Let's make a distinction, because there is this mix-up, but at the same time, I do understand why the mix-up is there, because the mix-up is intentional. Okay, it is not there because it's accidental. Okay, the mix-up is there because they want everyone to be arguing, going back and forth, not really being clear on the direction that we should go about our daily lives. Okay, so I just think that um, people really need to know their limitations, and if he doesn't know his limitations, and he has the assumption that the Bible is complete and it's the best source of knowledge and information according to the laws that govern the world and the universe, he doesn't know his limitations.
And I understand what you're saying, and I would agree to that, because when you take on, just like how he was quoting Paul and saying that Paul is saying every man is sin through Adam. That is Paul's limited view of the world, which limits the world itself. Paul had no idea of people living in the Americas, living in the South Pacific. So he is only talking, his world was the Roman Empire.
That's it.
The few of the other empires around the Roman Empire. So to him, that is it. That is the whole world.
That's it.
So he can say that everybody is through Adam, because they believe that all those people came from Adam down to Noah, through Noah's kids, and so on and so forth. But he had no idea that people have been living in the Americas for over 100,000 years. So those people could not have ever known about Adam. They would predate Adam. This and that shows the limitation of all the begotten, of how we chronologically put Adam in 4700 BCE, because the writers of the Bible just, this person begat this person at this age, and then that age, and then we get back to that time frame, and for them that is the beginning. And they were surrounded by other people, and I would go as far as to say that for those writers who was writing all the begatting, they were really just trying to say when the Israelite people began, not really trying to say that this is when all people began.
See, that's an interesting point, because it's the very first word in which we're not questioning. It's just comes out, says in the beginning, but in the beginning of what? Right? If I'm going to say, I'm going to begin, or it's beginning, and you're just going to look at me like, what? Okay, what's beginning?
Yeah. And actually, it's translated wrong.
I know it is. I know.
It shouldn't say in the beginning. It should say when God began to create.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. Right. But I'm saying that we look at the word the beginning, and beginning itself is not a noun. Right. But it's done intentionally. Okay. I won't get into all that, but in fact, this is kind of a side note. I did write a book. It's called Babel versus Bible, and I discussed the etymology between the two terms and how they are connected. And if you ever wanted to read the ebook, I'll send it to you for free, and you can check it out for yourself. But that's just a side note, okay?
Sure, you can say that.
Yeah.
But where can other people buy it?
I did have it on.
I didn't ask you where you did have it. I said, where can they buy it?
I had to shut down the website because things weren't working out through the e-commerce site. So I could still order the book. I just haven't reset it up. Right. But I know it just didn't work out. But okay. But that's just a side note. I can send you the ebook and you can kind of look at it yourself. And when I get everything back and up and running, I'll let you know. Okay.
Tell us about a damn book that can't nobody get their hands on. Kind of bullshit is that?
Well, they can get their hands on it. They can contact me directly and order the book.
Okay. Damn. You know I love business more than I love this shit right here.
Yeah. They can contact me directly and order the book. Okay. Right. But right now the e-commerce website, it didn't work out for me. It was just the whole payment setup thing, and it was just no, it didn't work out. So, okay.
Yeah, you gotta have a massive, well, you gotta have a masterful, I ain't gonna say massive, but a masterful marketing plan in order to make money off of a book when you're going through an e-commerce site, because you got to pay that fee every month.
You do, right?
And they take a portion of the book sales as well.
They do. Yeah.
So
yeah, it didn't quite work out, but it's okay. It's okay.
That's your fault.
But someone wants the book. I can see the ebook, but the actual hard copy is better than the ebook because, well, for one, I'm an artist, so I made it more like a piece of artwork. So, but you'll see that because some of the images are in there when I seen the book.
Okay.
But okay. So let's get back. I was saying that okay, yeah, beginning is not a noun. Period. Right? It's not a noun. And where did the logic come from that we would even accept all of these words without even questioning it? That's what I wanted to say to the brother. Like, hey, you're talking about logic, but I want you to think about even the words that we're using, such as belief. I mean, look at the word believe. You see the word belie in the word, okay? Without even questioning what you're using, right? You're not saying, I know, right. Just as Jesus said. Jesus said, know the truth. He said, believe it. He said, know the truth, he'll set you free. He didn't say believe it.
Yeah.
Right.
But then when you know the truth, then you know that all of it is fictitious. That's the problem.
When you know the truth, that is the basis of logic, period. That's all what you was trying to say. That's all you was trying to say. I know the truth, man.
And and here's the thing. We gather that information. So early man, during the time frame of the writing of the Old Testament, especially, their logic was that the drought happened, the storm happened, the earthquake happened because some God made it happen because the people weren't obeying this God correctly or worshiping this God correctly.
Understand.
Because they didn't have the scientific understanding of why earthquakes happen, they conjured up a deity. And to them, that was logical. That was logical to them because they had no other way of explaining it. But
understand.
So now when we look back now from our time frame, we can see how they just made shit up to try to explain nature.
Yeah.
Because we stand on their shoulders, right? Every generation stands on the shoulders of the previous generation for their knowledge. And then as that knowledge increases, our logic increases. Because we've seen this repetitive.
Oh, man, you're breaking up, brother.
Am I breaking up just to you or everybody? Can everybody hear me?
It's probably my connection. Yeah, hold up. Let me change my position.
He probably got that ragged ass with AT&T stuff going on and now.
No, I got T-Mobile. I got T-Mobile, so I don't know what's going on, but okay.
No, but see, we have one of the things that helped me to understand is that I looked at how we have all stood on the shoulders of everybody else, right? And in standing on the shoulders of everybody else, we become more knowledgeable about the world, about nature, about our universe, our known universe. And but the thing that the people who created gods could never do is to say, I don't know, which is what they can't do today, is they still can't say, I don't know.
I don't know. Right. That's interesting point. Yeah.
Like we can see to the edges of our known universe. We theorize that there's a larger universe outside of that.
Yeah.
Because we can see our expansion. We can see the expansion of other known universes coming into our universe. So we see this explosion, shit moving, not everything moving out. Some things are moving in but that's coming from a different
Understand.
explosion, right?
Mhm.
So then there is a larger universe that is at play. But we don't know the extent of that. We don't know what's in it because we can't see it yet. Once we get developed further to where we can see that, then we will have even more definitive facts about how our known universe is created, but knowing that there's a larger universe out there, right? But then we still won't know where that universe came from or how that, so there's always going to be this, we don't know. And what they've done is added the Bible, added a God to say, I don't know. And man has done that all over the world throughout time.
Yeah.
Is to put a God in place of I don't know.
Understand. Right. So that would, what you say, this is why people start saying, well, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You believe what it is that you don't know.
Right.
So instead of you saying that I don't know, you say I believe.
Yeah.
That's all.
And here's a swerve. Egyptian priests used to they did a ritual and the sun came up. And so they told the people, if I keep doing this ritual, the sun will keep coming up. So to their logic, the sun comes up because of this ritual.
That's it.
So that's what they know. And so they accept that and believe it, even though it's not true. But at their time frame, they couldn't rationalize it. It wasn't until later that they started rationalizing. It wasn't until later they started rationalizing and realizing that the priest ain't got shit to do with this sun coming up. It's gonna come up whether you do the ritual or not.
I understand. I know.
It's going around, the earth is spinning, it's going around this damn sun. So he's full of shit. So with this Bible, they haven't come to the realization that, hey, he thought this guy talked about a worldwide flood, but he said it happened in around 2400 BCE. But there were civilizations that didn't have a break. Like the Egyptian civilization continued before it, through it, after it. So something's wrong here. And that's what they can't do. They can't let go of those stories and realize that they should, if they stood on archaeology, then they would have to get rid of the Noah story happening when it supposedly happened. And the story then cannot be true because both of those things can't be true at the same time.
Yeah, there were multiple floods. It wasn't just one big flood. There were multiple floods in the archaeological record, but
you just went out. Can't hear nothing you said.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
But there was never a worldwide flood. Not to the degree that
no, there's no worldwide flood. No, there was no worldwide flood. No, where the entire planet. No. That has not been recorded. But there's been floods. Yes, there's been big floods, but not the entirety of the planet flooded out everywhere.
No. All the mountains being covered. That's never happened.
I understand.
And what we know today is that that's actually an impossibility. Like,
understand.
It is virtually impossible. There's not enough moisture in the air, ice on ice caps, not enough water.
I would even question, okay, well, where did all that water come from? And if it did do that, then where did all the water go? If it covered the land.
Well, the Bible said it went back into the deep.
I know, that's funny. I know. The deep of what?
And they've made this synthetic ringwoodite wood, this ringwoodite, and it's claiming that, ringwoodite, that's how the waters flooded and they went into the deep. The only problem is ringwoodite water can never make it to the surface of the planet. That's why the only examples of ringwoodite we have are synthetic, right? But it can never make it because the pressure that is so deep and then before it could get to the surface, it would have to break up, and there's a whole bunch of other shit they have to break up. And
Oh, yeah, but you're talking about hitting the depths of the Tibetan priest on Mount Everest.
yeah,
We're not just talking about sea level.
no,
We're talking about the top of Mount Everest.
18
okay.
feet, like 18. I think it's like 18 feet above Mount Everest, where there is not enough air for anything to survive up there.
Right, but I'm saying the water went that high.
Yeah,
but then it went that back down that low. I just want you to think about that, right?
All right, and think about this too. At the level of Mount Everest, all water freezes. So how in the hell is Noah's boat floating around when all water freezes at that height?
Okay, that's all I'm saying. I'm just thinking about it in the grand scope. Okay, that the whole earth flooded, and I'm like, no, you can't sell that one to me. Sorry.
No, it doesn't work at all. It doesn't work. Now, the closest thing we have is the Younger Dryas flood. Sea levels reclaimed their territory and rose 400 feet, right? And that only happens because of an ice age. And
right, the ice age, I understand.
Yeah, anytime there's an ice age, the sea levels drop. So we had this 25,000 year ice age that was happening, and with all that water on land, the sea levels dropped by 400 feet, and then when the ice melted, the sea levels rose
back up. Okay, so there was an adjustment with the water. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when you got people who have been living on that for thousands of years, living on these what was coastal to them, when that water comes back, your ass get flooded.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Right.
But that flood water never reaches the heights of mountains.
That's what I'm saying. Right, mountains. Right. I mean, we're talking the United States. You go up in Wyoming and Colorado, they got some pretty big peaks up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and those Native American tribes who lived in those time frames, they never had a worldwide flood.
There was no. That's just right.
They had river floods, but they never had a cover the mountain flood.
Right. Now, because the thing that comes to my mind too, I do remember like when they did look at specifically the Sphinx, because they are saying that the Sphinx is older than the pyramids because they saw that there's water, like water indentations, right?
Yeah. Water weathering on the Sphinx.
Right. So I'm saying that it would show on the archaeological rocks here in the mountains. If the water went that high, you could see that it deteriorated the rocks on the mountains, right?
Yeah, you will be able to see that.
You'll be able to see that. They can certainly test that, right?
Yeah, the geological record will definitely show that.
It ain't there.
And
that's all.
The Sphinx would have been covered as well, but the water weathering on the Sphinx is mostly from rainfall and from water flow.
Right.
So
right.
That's why they say the Sphinx had to have been around when the Sahara Desert was green.
That's right. When it was green.
We found ancient rivers in the Sahara Desert. We found ancient civilization on top of plateaus in the Sahara Desert. So, but that's when it used to be green.
Right.
And so that's when the Sphinx would have had to have been built. So either 13,000 years ago, at least at minimum, but most likely 26 to 35,000 years ago. Somewhere in that time frame, it would have been built. And if people wanted to look more into that, then the primary archaeologist, he's dead now, but John Anthony West would be your primary archaeologist. Yeah, he's the one who really did the groundwork on that research. Right.
Okay.
I wish he was still alive because he had a hell of a tour that he would conduct. Cost about $10,000 to go, but it was a great tour.
but at the same time, I just wanted to add, and then I'm going to get off, that I can kind of understand the gentleman's position because, you know, I grew up as a Christian,
Mm-hmm.
and then I got out of Christianity and I became active in the Nation of Islam, and then got involved in Orthodox Islam. And then I got out of that because I had my real true awakening, which really expanded my consciousness to really see a grander spectrum of not just the world, but everything around us. Okay. So I can kind of understand because you are orientated towards that logical system.
Right.
I can
Yeah, you are.
understand. Right. You would be. So I can't fault him for saying what he's saying, but at the same time, someone like you, someone like myself, you know, we've been in that sort of world, right? And we know how life is outside of that world.
Exactly. And
That's,
I never,
but that's
I never
difficult.
fault people. Yeah, I never fault people for that because, I mean,
Yeah.
I was heavily indoctrinated. Heavy. Growing up in Atlanta,
Yeah.
in metropolitan Atlanta, heavy
Uh-huh.
indoctrination at church half the week, you know,
Yeah.
in all the church events. Most
Yeah.
of the things you did surrounded by church family members all the time.
Yeah.
You know, the girls were at church. So,
I understand. No. I get it. No. I do. I get it. I get it. I know what you're saying. Yeah. But anyhow, thank you, brother, for always doing the work that you do. You know, there are people out here who do honor and appreciate what it is that you're doing because you are doing it with honor and respect. You're not out here disrespecting no one. You're not out here, let's say, putting them down or anything like that. But at the same time, I do understand that they get into their feelings and they get kind of defensive because it's very difficult to, let's say, swallow big pills that you don't want to digest. You rather just not swallow them, and you want to just, you know, protect yourself. And a lot of times people get into fight or flight because they maintain the reptile brain thinking. So, you know. Yeah.
I'm with you. Oh, and before you go, and appreciate you. Do you have a website?
I don't have a website running right now. No, it's down. But
Okay.
I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on TikTok.
Well, the reason why I say that is because I know on a website you can set your book up to where, and you still use a POS system that it'll run through.
Okay.
But it won't cost you as much as a publication site.
Okay.
But you can set it a POS system up, you know, where it's like Stripe, and then you can set the documentation up that anytime where your store, you can set your store up, your e-commerce store, so that every time somebody purchased the book, it automatically downloads into they automatically get the email link to download the ebook. And you can set the ebook so that they can't share it. That once they get it, okay. That'll be a low cost way of getting your book out there as well.
Okay. Yeah. I'll look into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But is your email available on this site, or is it available like on your main page on like Facebook?
It should be, but I'm putting it in. I'll put it in the comments.
Okay.
Just to make it easier.
Well, no, I'll share mine with you as well.
Okay. Yeah. So it's in the comments. And one person was right. Sometimes I do get disrespectful, but that's only when somebody is they're intellectually dishonest and they saying a bunch of bullshit, or they're disrespectful first. Then I'm gonna cuss you out.
Okay,
All right,
well,
man.
it's not your intention to be disrespectful, right? But
No,
what
it's not.
happens, you understand that that people um
Oh, his phone just dropped. That was not me. That was not me. His phone just dropped. But shit, it's been 3 hours and 19 minutes, and y'all know what that means. I know Miss Fifi said he acts like a preacher that keeps saying he got to go, but then preaches 15 more minutes. Miss Fifi, stop it. Stop it. So, yeah, this is going to be the end of the show. It's been 3 hours. Y'all know my limitations, and I've hit my limitation, and I'm hungry. So it's time to go, and they're making all this noise outside, so I might need to leave the house. So I appreciate everybody for being here. Federal, thank you for supporting the channel through financial donations. Y'all let the Christian outdo y'all. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. Shameful, shameful, shameful. But anyway, I appreciate everybody for being here. Thank you for your support of the channel. Continue to subscribe. Y'all don't know how much it means to the channel when you subscribe, when you like videos, when you comment on videos. It actually helps to grow the channel, and I greatly appreciate it. So I look forward to our conversation tomorrow. Last Thursday, I had some impromptu stuff come up, and so that's why we didn't have a thing last Thursday. This Thursday, we should be okay, even though I got some maintenance people coming, and it's one of those between 8 and 5 o'clock kind of things, which I hate. So we're going to try to still do Thursday. But we got tomorrow. We still have tomorrow. We have Wednesday. So I see you guys tomorrow at in and around 12 to 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. Look forward to our conversation. Y'all have a great day. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations, and we're out. So you got to pass the 10 plate. Got to pass the Tide plate, man.